I want to save your voice for tonight for the letter hack.
For the primetime show.
Yeah, for the headlining act that you're
Yeah.
doing tonight. Appreciate the call, buddy.
All right. Thanks a lot. Take
Bye.
care.
Rob and Reno. Folks, we're not going to have time for more phone calls. I apologize. You can blame John. Listen to him on the letter hack. Call in.
The letter hack. Oh my gosh. We don't miss, folks. We live not miss whatsoever. The letter hack. Oh my gosh. We don't miss, folks. We live not miss whatsoever.
Okay, now look, I was like, oh, the beef is squashed. They're calling us prime time. I can stop going out in public with a ball cap and sunglasses on, incognito, for fear of ridicule from a million Majority Report fans. And then right at the end, he's like, oh, blame John. Call into the letter. And you can hear the dripping disdain in his voice, right? And like, Jake, I'm sorry to bring you into this, but
Well, as a Majority Report fan, I gotta say, Matt, I'm just really disappointed that you're poaching his guests. What the hell?
You're implicated in this crime now. Okay? You're as guilty as the rest of us. John, are you still in denial about this? You still think this is a big
no.
joke?
I mean, yeah, it's a big joke, sure. I mean, it's that which is fine. I mean, that's his gig. He's a comedian. Yeah, I mean, it's because he did the same thing to Emma. When Emma went on Heidegger, he called it a betrayal. Which, I mean, that's just kind of what he does now. I mean, it's fine. That's his brand of humor. And
I think the jury's out.
I mean, he does genuinely hate Matt, but it is unrelated to this. But the Sam Cedar, if you go back in his catalog of stuff he did, the thing I enjoy most that nobody else seems to know about is a cartoon called Saddle Rash. If you ever want to chuckle, it's free on YouTube, I'm sure, right now. Nobody's reporting it if it's being pirated. It's a Sam Cedar Western cartoon about a cowboy with no arms.
Are you serious? Why do I not know about this?
Yeah.
I should have drawn something like that, but okay. I need to focus.
All right.
Really throwing me for a loop. I'm going to do a deep dive later on. But first, hello and welcome. I am the Letter Hack, and tonight I'm happy to introduce my co-host from What You Can Do, Jake Draugelis, and our very special guest and resident progressive politics and elections expert, John from San Antonio. Guys, thank you so much for being here. How are you both?
Fantastic.
I'm great. Yeah, great. Hoping for a good result in the 3rd District of Arizona. Raquel Tovaran is an excellent candidate. As I was saying on the Majority Report today, there won't possibly be any kind of new squad members or squad adjacent members, and she is the best chance of that happening tonight. And so everything else is just incumbents trying to hold their seats like the next 2 weeks with Cori Bush and Ilhan Omar. And so we'll see, and I'm hoping for a good result. I mean, I think it could be a really great result. So
yeah, I'm hopeful as well. And tonight is the first of 3 upcoming election coverage specials, and the plan is to have both Jake and John in attendance for those, which include Cori Bush's primary on August 6th, and Washington State. I had Jill Stein's campaign manager and running for the House in District 2, Jason Call, on the show last night, along with Andre Stackhouse, they're both Green Party candidates. Andre Stackhouse running for governor, and a friend of the show, Annie Fitzgerald, running in Washington District 38. So we'll be checking in with those folks at Washington State next Tuesday as well. And the third one of these episodes will be Ilhan Omar's primary, which is on Tuesday, August 13th. So we're going to be coming at you 3 nights a week here on the Letterhack YouTube channel for the next few weeks at least. Hey, you want the politics? We got the politics. But tonight we are in the Grand Canyon state of Arizona with all eyes on the competitive 3rd district, as John was just saying, where we will be tracking the results for progressive Democratic candidate Raquel Taran. Did I roll my R correctly?
Yeah, that's good enough.
I feel like I'm just sound so white when I try to do that. Anyway,
Gentlemen,
the polls.
I'll jump on this grenade for both of you and just butcher it every single time.
Okay.
But I've been reading up on Raquel Taran here, and I'm pumped. I'm glad to see we got a progressive voice on the ballot, and I hope that even if she wins, obviously, but even if she doesn't, I hope she demonstrates that there is a market for these ideas.
Yeah, there you go. And that was one thing that we learned from last night's interview with those 3 progressive candidates is that, and this eluded me for some reason, but it makes complete sense. The campaign is there to keep these issues in the spotlight. And
Right.
whether you win or not, your campaign is saying, this is important. Look, I'm not running on being a career politician. I'm running on giving you things for basic survival. So the polls close at 10 p.m. Eastern tonight. That's 20 minutes from now. We are going to try our best to stay here until we have final results. There are other things going on in Arizona tonight. Carrie Lake is back in the mix. I blissfully unaware of what she's been up to, but apparently she's still trying to, win. But we will be focused on the 3rd district. Taran had a Taran. See, and then it's like it's obvious I'm trying to say it, so
It's okay.
Yeah, I'm
we
sure
really are rooting for her. Like,
Yeah.
we want her and her politics to win, but we're not the only ones. She has been endorsed by the Congressional Progressive Caucus PAC and Bernie Sanders, who chimed in the final week of the campaign. Do either of you guys have an insight to why Sanders would wait till the final week of a campaign? Is that strategic? Does that make sense to do that because you get that final boost? If he does it too early, people forget about it by the final week. Why does he wait till the final week?
I'll cede the first crack at this to the expert, John. I have thoughts, but after you, John.
Well, I'm not really sure. I mean, obviously, more people are paying attention, and so if you do it too early, you're not going to get as much attention. But I mean, she also is endorsed by Elizabeth Warren. She's endorsed by, I believe you said, Working Families Party. She's actually endorsed by Mark Kelly, who is obviously very much a centrist politician. But I mean, he's a popular politician in Arizona, so that's good to have him on your side. So I mean, I think that she has a lot of good backing. She raised like in different outside groups raised, like I said on Majority Report, $1.9 million, and so this and then Ansari got 1.9 million from all these crypto groups, and also I was talking about that on Majority Report. Some Trump supporters, and I actually named their names. And she's in complete denial. And one of the things about the Harris campaign that I don't care for is so far. I mean, obviously I want Harris to win, but I mean, they are a little bit more business friendly towards, like, some of the people are talking about the kind of leaking that they may be more like open to crypto, which is horrible. And like, I don't know why she's doing that. and so Ansari is denying all this stuff, but then she signed on to a letter that a bunch of Congress people wrote about promoting crypto, and she was right in the middle of it. And so, I mean, she's kind of like in denial, and the press is really kind of playing this thing up. And they did the same thing in the district in Portland. I believe that was the third district also. I can't really remember right now, but Shashia Jayapal's district, where I believe the woman who won was named Dexter's her last name. And that's kind of the way the press portrayed them also, is like, oh, they're both progressives and they don't really differ on policy that much. But I mean, if you actually look at their websites, you actually hear what they're talking about on various stump speeches and in the press. They are very different. I would say they're almost night and day. Ansari is good on climate issues. She's 32 years old. Yeah, those are all of the union people that have it. Both progressives. It's a very, very good issue set. And
This should tell you something about her politics right here. The
Right.
endorsements. That's what sets them apart, really.
Yeah, I mean, Raul Grijalva is one of the best. I mean, she has some. Yeah, I mean, she has some centrist also, like I was saying with Kelly and Ron Barber. I mean, these are all former Congress people, and but yeah, I mean, she has definitely got strong credentials, and I think she'll be. I wouldn't say full squad, but I mean more squad adjacent. But I mean, if she backs, I think she's really great on border issues, not degrading immigrants. I mean, obviously she's spent a lot of time. I think she was born in America, but she spent a lot of time in Mexico also. So she's really great on that. Like I was saying on Majority Report, Medicare for All, Green New Deal, just a whole plethora of progressive ideas. And so that's really great to see. And there just haven't been that many candidates running in this cycle that have been competitive, and so it's great to see.
And she's no new candidate either. She's not coming out of nowhere. And like we were just saying, and sorry to interrupt, Jake, I'll throw to you in just 2 seconds, but like we were just saying, the issues they run on matter, and her website is fantastic. And so if you want to check out that website, just go to the description of this podcast and check out all the links for ways to find out more about this person and their race and the issues they're running on and the endorsements. They've got everything, their legacy up to this point as well, because it's those issues that we need to continue to be educated and informed on. Jake, you were saying.
I was just going to say, as far as the timing of the endorsement, I remember seeing not just a couple of days ago that Brian Tyler Cohen video of Obama endorsing Harris. And he points out, oh, look at this pantsuit that she's wearing in the video, and look at a speech she gave a week ago or whatever it was. Couldn't have even been that long. But the point being, she waited days and days to release the fact that she had gotten that endorsement for whatever reason. So maybe my point is only that maybe Bernie knows something about the way these elections work. Maybe the candidate does, but regardless, I think it's not that. I don't think it's that telling that he waited this long to endorse, because it could simply be a matter of strategy. And at the same time, I feel like Bernie's everywhere. He's got his finger in every pie there is. So if he's last minute, I understand how he just got to something.
Oh, and surely he reached out ahead of time and was like, "We're going to be doing this. Would you like me to wait?" And maybe she said, "Yeah, let me see what I can do on my own," and then come through to get us over the line. We have a lot of clips lined up we play it safe here and make sure that we have plenty of content because once the polls close, it doesn't mean we'll get results right away. Do you
True.
guys want, and the clips are from a recent debate, so there's a lot of stuff to comment on. Should we go to one of those? Do you want to watch
Yeah,
Karan's
Yeah.
opening statement?
Yeah, let's do that. I mean,
All right,
do it,
get a
fellas.
kind of
do
get a
that.
feel for her politics.
Yeah, we could talk about the candidate or we could just listen.
Thank you, and Ms. Teran, you have 2 minutes.
Buenas tardes, Arizona. My name is Raquel Teran. I am running for Arizona's Congressional District 3. I've been a community organizer. I've been the state director for Planned Parenthood. I've been a legislator and chair of the Arizona Democratic Party, and I am a proud mother of an 8-year-old. And every single step of the way of my journey, I've been told that we cannot fight back the extremists. Yet, I led in efforts to recall Russell Pierce, the author of SB 1070. I led efforts to oust Sheriff Joe Arpaio, who was terrorizing our communities. I led efforts to protect the Affordable Care Act. And under my leadership at the Arizona Democratic Party, we had historic victories that led to protect our democracy by re-electing Senator Mark Kelly and getting Governor Hobbs, Secretary Fontes, and Attorney General Chris Mace. I am incredibly proud of the work that we have done. I've knocked on thousands of doors and talked to many people in our communities who have felt left behind, who are upset because their rights are being taken away. That is why I am taking our fight to the halls of Congress to ensure that we deliver for the people in our district. Our campaign is supported and endorsed by many in our community, including Senator Mark Kelly. Our campaign is the only one endorsed by Planned Parenthood Action Fund, Reproductive Freedom for All, the League of Conservation Voters. The biggest unions in our state are behind our campaign. I will be the first Latina to represent Arizona in Congress. Join us at raquelteran.com. And for the people that are watching in Spanish, mi nombre es Raquel Teran. Estoy postulándome para el Congreso para representar el Distrito número 3. Usted me conoce como una persona que ha luchado por nuestra comunidad. Seré la primer latina en representar Arizona en el Congreso. Acompáñanos en raquelteran.com.
Okay, Ms. Ansari.
Badass. I love when they repeat stuff in their own language.
Yeah.
SB Senate Bill 1070, which you refer to as SB 1070. Just to let you know what that was, also known as the Support Our Law Enforcement and Safe Neighborhood Act, was signed into law in 2010 by Governor Jan Brewer. The law was intended to prevent illegal immigration, particularly in Arizona, which shares a border with Mexico. At the time of its passage, it was considered one of the strictest and broadest anti-illegal immigration laws in the United States. One of the things it required law enforcement to do was check the immigration status of anyone they had, quote, reasonable suspicion of being in the U.S. illegally, including those arrested or detained, allowing police to stop and question anyone operating a motor vehicle if they had, quote, reasonable suspicion the person was violating a civil traffic law. So this is the thing. It's like, she recalled that. She led the effort to recall that. And
Sir,
to,
I pulled you over because your skin is colored reasonably suspicious.
what? It's like your shirt says Mexico. Busted. Like what dude?
Got 'em.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So anyway, that's what she was talking about there.
Yeah, I believe that was actually overturned by the Supreme Court also.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's great that she is an organizer and she's a fighter, and I'm very inspired by her. She's one of the best candidates this year. I mean, including all the incumbents. And so,
Joe Arpaio too is a huge moment in modern American history. This realization that we had essentially corrupt cops running sheriff's departments
Openly.
Yeah.
The fact that she has been involved in the fight on basically all levels is hugely inspiring, frankly. I hope that people are paying close enough attention that she is rewarded for this, because the people who you go up against, the Joe Arpaios of the world, they don't forget. They hold grudges, and so do their cohorts. So she will have the baggage from these fights no matter what. I just hope we find out that the people of Arizona tonight are grateful for her hard work.
Yeah, she was a longtime organizer for immigrant rights, and if elected, Tehran would be Arizona's first Latina member of Congress. Like she was saying, this is what we got to stop relying on the current members of Congress to suddenly do the right thing, and we need to elect people who have been doing the right thing all along. We need to get them into office so that they can, get the job done.
And best of both worlds here. We do need to get new people in who don't need to be convinced to be decent human beings. That's a fact.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we have these lizards in manskin in office currently. We can also scare them by giving them a run for their money at the primaries. So if for example, Mr. Ron here doesn't win, but nearly wins, that's going to tell the person who does win who they need to pitch themselves to in order to beat the Republican.
Yeah, one thing about this district, it is 63% Latino. So I mean that's or Hispanic, and so that's a big advantage for Tehran. I mean,
No, go ahead.
yeah,
in the primary, yes. In the general, I wonder if do you think that'll still hold true in the general?
Yeah, sure. I mean that it's a safe district. It's a I don't know, plus 40, plus 50 Biden district. I mean the right. So this is in essentially in Phoenix. I think it was Southern. I'm trying to remember what I said. A majority of Fort Southern, Western, and downtown area of Phoenix, and part of Glendale. And so, yeah, this is a very much a safe district. I mean, to whereas some of the other districts, like there's going to be a competitive race in District 1, which is very much a swingy district that could go either way. I'm trying to remember if it's. I believe it's a +1 Biden district, but right now it's the district is being held by a David Swikert, a Republican, and then the 6th district where there's not a competitive primary. Siskamani is a plus 0.1 Biden district, and so those are really two really tight races. And when you go to the general, it's actually Arizona is going to have the 3rd most competitive races behind New York State and California with those 2 races, the 1st district and the 6th district. But yeah, whoever wins tonight in the Democratic primary will definitely be the Congress woman. Probably it will be a Congresswoman. It's either going to be Ansari or Tehran. Wooten has no chance of winning. He's like at 4% in the polls. He has no, I mean, he seemed like a nice enough guy, but I mean, he doesn't have any kind of background to where Tehran is. She was the minority leader in the state Senate before she resigned her post. She also served in the state house, and so yeah, she has a lot of experience, for being fairly young.
And sorry if I recall correctly, she's currently a city councilwoman. Is that right?
No, that's Ansari. Ansari also.
Yeah, Ansari.
Ansari. She resigned her position also, so she's not a city councilwoman. They both resigned their positions to focus on this race.
Is she still a millionaire landlord charging rent higher than she's supposed to?
Yeah, I think she is. I think that that was in the debate, and yeah, I mean,
she should have been polling so badly after a revelation like that she just dropped out for the sake of sparing herself further embarrassment. That should be true. Anybody who is a landlord that overcharges in this day and age, with the electorate suffering in the way they are, that's got to be disqualifying. I'm shocked that she's still in this.
Yeah, and she got hefty campaign donations from her dad. Is that right? Or was it loans? One of those. But
Yeah, it was a couple
yeah.
100,000. I mean, yeah.
Oh,
I
so
mean,
some pocket change. Okay, walk
I
around.
I just find it hard to accept that somebody can claim to have progressive policies and investment property where they're charging above average rent in that state. I just find it's like you can cancel out your progressiveness, I think. So,
Yeah. And there's something to be said for somebody who's saying, I want you all to live a certain way. I want the government to force people to live a certain way. I'm not going to live that way. Not me, but that's
There
what I
it
want to
is.
make you guys do.
Yep.
It just doesn't work.
We'll play another clip.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's watch her closing statement this time. It really tells you, we get a good sense of who we're talking about here.
Well, I thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight, and I hope that with this debate you get to know me a little bit better. I am a true native, born and raised in this district, and have spent my entire life for the people. I'm not a politician. I never want to be a politician. I want to be an advocate, and that's what I've been, and that's what I want to continue to be. We have a lot of problems in this country. The reason why I decided to run was because I got tired of complaining. I got tired of seeing the pain and the hurt and the anger and the frustration. And so what did I do? I said, I'm going to lose my mind and run for Congress. While I'm still practicing medicine full time, mind you. And I plan to still do that while I'm in Congress. Congress is a part-time job. Some people don't know that. But I can get a lot done because I have the history and the experience of pulling people together and coming up with solutions for common goals. And my two fellow candidates here just don't have that experience. So I welcome your vote, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Ms. Teran. You have 1 minute.
Thank you for this conversation. Truth be told, people like me have been told that we don't belong. You don't have millions of dollars to run a congressional race, you're an activist, and that you are not going to win. But that's what many people in our districts have heard many times. And like them, I've never let that stop me. In 2006, when I was handed a clipboard with voter registration forms as a way to bring comprehensive immigration reform, worker protections, an economy that moves everybody forward, I knew right then and there that by engaging our communities in the decision-making process, we could change the state of Arizona. These same communities are now turning Arizona blue. Our campaign has a strong and broad coalition supported by Senator Mark Kelly, supported by the Pastor family, supported by Unite Here, and many, many others. Join us in making history by electing the first Latina to represent Arizona in Congress.
I have two questions. One, is this a part-time job they're running for? And two, do you want your doctor to be like, hold on, I have some congressional business to attend to real quick? Just
Actually,
part-time.
yes. I mean, if you're talking, do I want my doctor to be like, pardon me one moment, I'm also a congressman.
I'm voting
Yes?
today.
Yeah, that I wanted my doctor. Do I want my congressman to be like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't vote on this bill. I had to go do a surgery. No.
Yeah. It's not part-time though, right, John?
Yeah, no, I don't know why he said that. Yeah, I mean, the debate was not so great as far as the actual journalists that were conducting it. Didn't talk about like any kind of climate change. Didn't talk about healthcare. They did talk about the immigration, which is very important in Arizona. Talked about economic values. Trying to remember exactly what else they talked about, but it didn't touch on some of the things that I would like to see them touch upon. But I mean, I understand that they have different prerogatives, but they were talking about a bill that was passed. The first question was talking, maybe you'll have it soon. They're talking about a bill that was passed in the state legislature. And they're asking like, why, what are you going to do about that? And I'm thinking like, they can't do anything about that. They're not running for the state legislature. I mean, yeah, they can come out with rhetoric and say, I don't approve of this, but they can't really try to overturn that law. I mean, it's kind of kind of a silly statement.
Sounding like most of the people there, including one of the candidates on stage, was not fully aware of what the job was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that is a weird thing to say.
Just
when
to
I
even
was,
mention, like, well, it's a part-time job, so, like, if you're running for dog catcher, maybe, but, like, that's just a
Yeah.
weird thing to bring up in the I'm even for if let's go into this guy's head and say it is a part-time job and you only have to do it. In fact, you're only allowed to do it, let's just say, for 4 hours a week. Still, the weirdest time to possibly bring that up is when you're pitching why you'd be good at it. Like, I'll be good at this job because, let's be honest, I'm not going to do it all that much. I'm still a doctor. But,
Yeah.
when I have time, I'll call in to the office. It's just weird. It shows a
weird.
lack of political instincts. Whereas Tehran over there had great political instincts. If you're talking about her ability to message to people quickly and effectively, she took what that guy just said, turned it around right away. She's like, "Yeah, I've been hearing that I don't belong a lot," and it's just like, great,
Yeah.
great job.
Yeah, and that's to John's point about it not being the greatest debate. It's like we were saying about your election. You can tell if you're going to win or not. You can tell if you're even going to come in close or not. It's about putting the issues in front of voters more and more and more. So using like any platform to your advantage is key. We used to get voter guides when I lived in Colorado. I loved it. The blue book would arrive. Literally everything you want to know is in there. Occasionally, there would be a candidate who neglected to provide like their statement or like what they stood for. And I'm like, that's free
Yeah.
of campaign advert. What are you doing? Why wouldn't you copy and paste some shit from your website and send it in there, right? Like that's
Truly,
just
if
silly.
only to get your name up there one more time.
Yeah, like you missed a deadline. Yikes! Are you going to be there to vote?
As we learned from Lauren Boebert, that's a real concern.
Yeah, the polls are closed. Just so everyone knows, by 4 minutes. I don't see any results yet, so let's all just kind of keep our eye on that. We will be cutting over to those results as they come in. Any sense of how quickly or how long it might take?
Yeah, I have no idea. I really don't know at all. I mean, it's the fact that it is in Phoenix means that it's they're probably going to come in later than other districts just because you have people working their jobs, voting after work, as opposed to people who live in rural areas who have more time. The lines aren't as long. I mean, I don't think they're going to be super long lines for a Democratic primary, but
And there's just more ballots to count. In Phoenix, there's just a lot more people than there will be in, say, wow. I apologize, Arizona. I literally can't name a small Arizona
Scottsdale.
town. What now? Scottsdale.
Flagstaff.
All right, Burning.
I don't know populations. I'm just naming the ones I can remember.
In Arizona town. There we go.
I have a friend that lives there.
Ha!
I could have talked to them about this ahead of time, but they're not big on politics. Which you know what? Just a side point. I love talking to normies, what we call normies, about politics right now, because everyone has an opinion right now. Like right now, everyone is like, this is what I think. And the reason I like talking to them so much is so I can say, I don't care what you think. I want to know what you think for us, not you. Nobody cares about you individually. Nobody. We need to be looking at this as a collective. We need to be looking at this as a base, right? We need to be looking at this as a coalition as much as possible. And if I'm sitting here going, no, I think my position doesn't change. Yeah, I'm fine. Okay. It's like I always say, my struggle shouldn't be your struggle, but your struggle should probably be my struggle, right? Like I'm We should go to
I'm
bat
just
for each other.
fascinated by the gravity of the decisions people make with almost no information. I'll never forget going back a little over 4 years ago, when I was a radio show host in the middle of nowhere, Grand Haven, Michigan. And I had a roommate because there was no way to survive without one. And I asked her, or she asked me, "Hey, look, don't judge me." Here I am years later judging her hard, but I'll keep her name out of it. "Don't judge me, but can I ask you a question because you're into this politics stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah, oh, by all means, I'd love to." I was excited. We had a new mind here. You good? And she goes, "Is Trump a conservative, or is he the with the like the left people?" And I explained politely. I was like, "Yeah, he would be considered a far right conservative, and he's with the Republican Party." And she was like, "Okay, thanks."
It's a
And then I
great.
went into my room and I drank.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say like screamed into your pillow.
I did. I
But-
screamed into my pillow, drank, screamed again, kicked my feet like a teenage girl that just got dumped. It was this. So that has changed a little bit, and not nearly as much as I would have hoped in the average person that I talk to these days.
Yeah, it is a good opportunity to explain what people mean by conservative and liberal. And how that's just like they're just phrases we sort of or labels we sort of use now that aren't really applicable to the extremes or the far end of the political typology that people are gravitating to, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If you're in the middle, you got to choose this side.
We are at that point where
Yeah.
it's like you can't. It's not as though these are two philosophies of governing that can coexist. We can't have the group of people that are like, well, we want to decide things democratically, but it's fine if this other group wins who wants to never have another election ever again. You gotta get on board. Are you with democracy or are you with the Republicans? That's truly the question America needs to answer now. And it's sad to me. I love debate. I love honest policy conversations. I desperately wish we could maybe not go back to the way things were, but I wish we could get to a point where we could have earnest debates about how best we can help shape the country. But we're like, if you're on the fence, you don't understand what it is Republicans are pitching these days. They're genuinely pitching an end to democracy. It's like you're clearly uninformed. That's the problem. The problem isn't that you've heard two. Here, I'll make this a little more concise. The problem isn't that you've heard two reasonable paths forward for deciding how to run a country. The problem is you have no idea what these people are talking about. Pinkerbell, which side are you on?
As the
Which
song
side?
goes.
Yeah, from the Valley Labor Report. Yeah. Come on, all you workers. Yeah, it's a great tune.
Yeah, and I won't mute anybody for singing, but
All right, I'm gonna burn your house down.
um, so are we seeing any results yet? I'm refreshing. I don't see anything.
Yeah, I don't see anything. I'm actually trying to get an idea of who I would prefer in the first district. Probably should have done this before. I've looked at all their websites and I didn't really feel any of them were very good. But this is going to be a tight race also. Maybe we should talk about that just for a second, just because it is a swing district. It's a +2 by district that is currently held, David Schweikert holds this seat. Let me see, the polling is super tight between 4 different candidates. Let's see.
There's no like redistricting going on here or anything like that, right?
No, that all happened in 2022. And so, the latest poll has this guy, Andre Cherney. It's 16%. I'm trying to get all the different people. Shaw is this last name. It's 16%. Galen Woods at 14%. O'Callahan at 8, at 11. So this should be a super close race that could go to any of the top 4 people. In the previous poll, just these are in late June. Shaw had a lead. It's 3-point lead over O'Callahan. So this could go. It's very strange to have 4 different candidates who could win, who are kind of competing and splitting the vote between them. I think Shaw and Galen Woods are probably the better candidates. O'Callahan had some good issue sets, but he's really terrible on Gaza. He's very strident supporter of Israel. And I was looking at his website. I wasn't super impressed, but I mean, it was just kind of like decent Democrat, centrist Democrat. But then I read that and I was like, yeah, no, I don't like this guy. And he's actually backed by Digby, Heather Pardon, and another guy named Howie Klein, who's a left wing activist. And I was, when I read that website about his Gaza policy, I was like, wow, that's surprising that. I guess they don't know about it, maybe, or something.
I would wager.
Yeah.
I love that that's a deal breaker these days. I think that is and I mean, of course it is, right? But like it's like we were saying at the outset, we really do have to define, what do you mean by progressive? You can't just say I'm democratic or I'm progressive. Please explain. And I'm reminded of, this was a big thing in the trailer for the Civil War movie by Alex Garland that's out now, where the guy's like, "We're Americans." He goes, "Oh yeah? What kind of Americans?" So that's bad. That's what I'm not saying. But if somebody says they're progressive, I would say, what kind of progressive? A real one? Or are you just using that term because, it sounds good?
You're onto something there. I think, first of all, I have to respectfully and sadly disagree where you said, of course that's a deal breaker. Not of course. Not of course. America has long held a blind spot for brown people suffering. And it used to be back in the day, you could consider yourself very, very left, but also be okay with invading a country that didn't actually attack us,
Right.
because it has Muslims in it. So I am glad to see that is changing, but I just don't think it was a given. Adding
I
to,
meant
though,
for us.
yeah,
but
yeah. But
You're
adding
right.
to what you were saying, you're dead on. When you said you can't just be essentially progressive on one issue and call yourself a progressive. I do think that is incredibly true, and that's the essence of progressivism. You can't say these people, these groups that have been underserved, these are the ones I'm going to campaign for. But at the same time, F all these other groups that have been underserved, or F all these other groups that I'm not a part of, or I don't care about for one reason or another. People have woken up to the fact that, no, it's about universal principles. Do you treat people fairly? Do you want to ease human suffering wherever you find it? If that is the truth of what you're trying to do, then you are a progressive. But if you are picking group A, group B, group C, and separating them and saying, "Oh, just this group is the group I want to be progressive about," well, that's not progressivism. That's just good policy for one specific group. I think the reason for the confusion, incidentally, is that progressives also happen to be the only political party offering sincere solutions. The rest are just offering excuses for excuses for rich people stealing from you.
Yeah. Mike Figueredo brought this up when he was on our group show Left Past 10 last week. Left Past 10, Wednesdays, 10 p.m. Eastern. He said that the uncommitted vote is still in play, even though Biden's no longer the candidate. And I was like, oh, yeah. in my mind, I was like, no, anything associated with Biden is gone now. Not true. And that is, to your point, and the point that we're sort of making here is that is a shift. And we all know, like, people, your vote is very powerful. I always joke around about how, like, somebody's like, here's who I'm voting for. And I goes, that makes one, right? But it doesn't. That's one of, however many it takes to get over the line.
Yeah.
And I think in this case, uncommitted is a big deal, and that needs to be taken serious. I wonder, do you guys have an opinion if Harris is going to consider that herself?
I have strong opinions, and because I have a tendency to rant, John, let me pass this. Let me pass this to you first, please.
So the question is
Harris going to take into account the uncommitted votes from the presidential primary that were held against Biden because of his position on Israel and Gaza?
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think there were that many, right? I mean, there were. You're talking about delegates, uncommitted delegates.
No, like when it came time to vote, like in Michigan, I forget the actual
Right.
number. There was a substantial number of voters who were like, we're just writing uncommitted because we're letting Biden know, come November, if your position hasn't changed, we're sitting this out. We're not going to give anybody the vote, you included. And
Right.
that was one of those things where it was like, we were talking about normies before. It's like, once that headline that it happened is out there, it may gain traction by November. And that was kind of the concern, was that, oh, it's not that many people, we'll be all right. Well, but what if people caught wind of that and said, oh, I should have done that too. I'm going to sit out as well.
12% of Democrat primary voters in Michigan voted uncommitted. That's a massive amount of people.
Yeah, I wonder, does Harris sweat that? Or
well, no, I don't think she does, because essentially she's an employee right now. She will be an employee of Joe Biden's until whatever.
August 19th.
Well, no, until January of next year, January 20th. I mean, win or lose, she's going to be the vice president unless Biden dies. And so she really, that's one thing about vice presidents, is that they are employees. They cannot go against the president, or they will not be around for long. And I mean, you can make a point that Harris was sidelined very much in the first 2 years, and even up to fairly recently. I mean, she was not a high profile vice president at all. And so, yeah, I don't think she's gonna. I mean, the question is if she wins, how will our policies change towards Gaza? And I think that will be that. I think she'll be better. From the rhetoric I've heard, that she did call for a ceasefire and then she had to walk it back. I think that's because the White House told her to do that. And I think that generally she feels more sympathetic to the Gazan people. I mean, I wouldn't have met with Netanyahu at all, but again, as an employee of Joe Biden's, she kind of had to. And so, yeah, so that's it.
I'm just not sure I agree with the assessment of the uncommitted folks there. I don't think it comes down, like, let me put it like this. I don't think they view it as sober as you do. And I say this as a famously not sober, uncommitted voter. You're saying, well, look, she's an employee of Joe Biden. She didn't have a choice in any of this stuff. I think the uncommitted voters want to hear more direct rhetoric from her against what Netanyahu's doing, because they say, yeah, she was the assistant manager of the country, essentially, and we had a terrible dining experience with our relatives being exploded. I think she does have to make made some, let me say this again, she has to make some more efforts to communicate to the voters, look, I am not my boss. I am a different person. I will not participate in this genocide. But we're past the era, especially with these uncommitted people. We're past the era of trusting that, oh, no. Look, she's got to be quiet about it, but she's got to very secretly let us know that she's not going to do a genocide because she doesn't want to anger the people that love genocide. That's not going to fly. For these uncommitted voters, what they were voting uncommitted for was anybody that was for a genocide, for supporting this. So I'm with Figueiredo on here. She's got to pitch to them a little bit as a candidate. I think they'll get to where you are, where it can be communicated that, look, I didn't do this thing. I know what you're angry about. But she has to also go that extra step and say, I didn't do this thing. And in fact, this thing's going to stop when I get in power if you put me there.
Yeah, I mean, that's theoretically, I agree with what you're saying. I think that the reality of politics in America is a little bit different, than it is in what you're talking about. But yeah, I mean, Biden is so bad on the Gaza situation that I think it will be an improvement. But at the same time, she's also a big supporter of AIPAC. She's given speeches. So I mean, I think that there's a lot that's just kind of the blob that supports Israel, for whatever they do, and so she's definitely a part of that to some degree. So it's just a matter of how much compassion is she going to show when she gets into office.
And I'm just saying she's got to communicate that. She needs to make it clear that the killing will stop, or at least our participation in such activities will stop. Otherwise, a lot of those uncommitted folks are going to say, "Nah, I don't think most. I think 12% of those voters, or let's just say of the uncommitted vote, I think 80, 90% it's enough that they change the candidate. They'll vote for Kamala Harris, point made. That last 10% in a swing state, that's important. I think she needs to care more about those 10% of people that voted uncommitted than she does the people who support Israel because they heard about maybe one thing, and the last they heard about Israel really was October 12th. Because those people can be convinced to vote for the Democrat for a myriad other reasons which are legitimate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Something I always wonder about is like, what can a politician say about anything? And let's just stick with this issue, Gaza. What can a politician running or candidate running for president say about anything that would make you believe it's not just something they're saying on the campaign? They're actually going to do it. Like, can she talk about this in terms of a policy or some sort of like legit strategy that would make you go, this sounds like it's more than just campaign rhetoric?
Yeah. Just come out against sending weapons to Israel. Like, we see what they're doing with them. They're not defending themselves. They're attacking a civilian population.
But that's not just talk at this point. If she goes, oh yeah, of course we're going to stop doing that. Don't worry, you guys. Like,
if she wasn't,
no, it's not just talk because it's taking a stance.
Yeah, but if she wasn't the vice president, it would be very different. If she was just the person who was just running and was running against Biden, and she actually got a lot of the vote, because she would have probably already had a position that was already progressive in that area. But nobody chose to run against Biden. And so, we don't hear that. I mean, that's kind of what I was talking about before, and that's what I'm hoping for in future elections. Win or lose, I hope that somebody primaries Kamala Harris in 2028. I mean, it's not that I just don't accept this idea that anybody should just have to be a permanent incumbent and should like have a seat that lasts a lifetime. Because I mean, that's what you see with a lot of politicians. Once they win, they're set for life, or they're set for, a long time. And I don't think that's good at all. I think that really hurt the party this year. It was almost fatal. If Biden wouldn't have stepped down, it would have been terrible. And this is what I was talking about with Sam in last December. And so when people try to primary progressives, you're dealing with the same issue. I mean, I think that they should. I'm not saying that any progressive should ever just have the same kind of incumbency forever. I mean, it's the same idea. It's like you have to prove your policy set every election, or you should be able to. And there's nothing wrong with being challenged.
Here's a question. Do you think that it would be beneficial if Democrats in general were coming out right now while they're trying to get elected in favor of mandatory primaries for the party? Because that's not even something you need to pass in like the legislature. Democrats can just decide we're doing primaries every single election cycle.
Well, I mean, they do primaries right now. It's just that people choose not to run. I mean, that's the big issue. I mean, they don't challenge.
I guess that was awkwardly
incumbents.
phrased. Let me try it again. What if Kamala Harris came out and said, like, in 4 years, I hope to see people competing with me in the primary. Like, she opens, as part of her rhetoric, she opens up the door and says, please, by all means, if you think you can do it better, like inviting a challenge from within her party. Or do you think it would just come off as cocky?
I just don't think it's realistic, but
no, it's fair.
Yeah, I mean,
you raise all that money and convince people to endorse you just to say, hey, oh, by the way, if anybody wants to challenge me,
I do think,
I don't know. Yeah.
I think like as a voter, I'd be like, the balls. I love it. I'd want her to come out and say, like, I believe I'm going to win this election. I'm so confident that I want you to know that I hope to see Democrats trying to primary me in 4 years, because that's how a healthy democracy should work, and we should get back to that. I appreciate how we got here. I appreciate how I got into the candidacy. But the way this ought to work is that we should have healthy debates about how we want to run the country, and we shouldn't be terrified that a dictator is going to try to take over. The point being that she comes out and encourages people to run against her and normalizes it with the bully pulpit.
Yeah, I think progressives already do that. They already welcome, people who come challenge them. They're not as
progressives. Yeah,
progressives do, because they realize that that's just part of democracy. I think that there's some kind of, I don't want to sound like, regular sense Democrats are anti-democratic, but I just think that they just think that once they're in, that this is something that's gonna last, their lifetime, or I mean, because that's just kind of the way it is. I mean,
and they use the Democratic Party itself to tamp down on primaries as much as possible, unless, of course, it's a primary for a progressive. Then it's fine, but they'll do everything in their power to cut down on primaries for incumbents who are centrist or right wing. I'm hung up on a weird thing. I haven't thought it through.
I'm noticing, we're 31 minutes after the polls have closed. No results at all. I cannot believe it. I mean,
people in the chat were wondering,
like,
we're not withholding anything. You can look for yourself. There's nothing to report.
I cannot believe that there's zero reporting in any races, and I'm just very surprised. I was able to go through some websites, and I do believe that the best candidate in the first district is a woman named Marlene Galen Woods. I think she has the best issue set, and so I am hoping that she will win tonight. And like I said before, Andre Cherney is also right up there. Colin O'Callahan, Amish Shaw. Those are the top four that could any of those could win. And so I'm hoping that Marlene Galen Woods will win. Seems like she has the best endorsements and the best issue set. Not great, not a great progressive, but just seems like that she has some pretty good priorities compared to the others. Talking about abortion, which is obviously a very, very important issue. Climate and energy, things like that. Not really seeing a lot about healthcare, and that's a big issue for me. But I'm noticing that's really not as big of an issue, because when Bernie ran in 2016 and 2020, Medicare for All was right at the top of his issue set, and now it seems like that's kind of been thrown aside, and and so that's a bit of a bummer.
It's disheartening.
Because I'm always, healthcare is super important. I think that those are life and death issues. For people, and climate change also is very important. So
hand in hand.
I think she's pretty good on those two topics.
I do want to point out that
we'll see how she does.
I do want to point out that we do have some results.
Glad that I could actually pick somebody.
Yeah, and we will.
Before I was like, none of them really seem that great, but
I'll keep my eye on that one specifically.
What results do we
have? Like I said, that's a really important swing district. Right now, Republicans have 221 seats. The Democrats have, I think, it's 114. I think there are a few seats that are out. Sheila Jackson Lee and a few others that they're not going to be filled until Election Day. But that's going to be super important. That's what I was talking about on the majority report, about how the last two cycles have been the two closest consecutive cycles in modern history. And that's why I was so concerned about, about Harris and having that close election. I felt kind of dirty talking about Shapiro. Emma, I really enjoy Emma, but I think she was a little bit off base on her thing about saying that what's the guy, Bashir, was leading in all of the betting sites about being the
you can't trust those.
Vegas. The person who was actually
Vegas
going to get the
politics?
VP pick, because that's not what I saw. I looked at it a few hours after she said that, and that Shapiro is leading all of them. So, so yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just think it's going to be a super tight race, and I don't know how to really articulate, my feelings. I mean, because just on an issue basis, I don't like Shapiro, but this is always the point of are you gonna like a Bernie is saying, here's my issue set, either vote for me or don't vote for me. I'm not going to change my values. Where somebody like an Elizabeth Warren is saying, I'm a little bit flexible to go with what the public wants, or how far the public will go. I mean, I'll support Bernie because I think issues are important. But like I was saying, the majority report, if they can't win in Pennsylvania, that Harris is going to have a hard time winning. I mean,
Well, we've
so
seen how that plays out
so
twice
I don't
now.
know. I feel, like I said, I feel kind of dirty even bringing it up uh, as a possibility. Not saying that I think Shapiro should get the nod, just saying, people should be thinking about this. I mean, it's easy to just to say Shapiro's the worst and he should never get the pick. And I agree with that on a pure issue set. But I mean,
But
if they lose, if
to
she
what you were
loses,
saying, though,
what's
we've
going to
seen
happen
how
then?
this works.
We're going to be going over it just like the Clinton race. Why did she lose?
Well,
And
yeah, but
I
what you
don't
said earlier.
agree with all of the people who are backing Bashir. I don't think he's. I mean, he's a decent surrogate, but he's in a red state where he has no power. All he can do is veto legislation. I just don't see his appeal at all. I mean, I just don't see how he's going to sway anybody. I just don't see it. And I mean, to be quite frank, I think all of the VP picks are also kind of bad. Waltz has a good record as the governor, had a very bad voting record as a congressman for many years, a very conservative voting record. I mean, Waltz has a legislature that is pretty progressive, and so essentially all he has to do is sign the bills that they bring to him.
Fair
and he
point.
signed them, and so I'll give him credit for that. And he is a good surrogate, but he's not gonna win any states for so
Walls is what
I
Biden
don't
could
know.
have been.
I mean, I hope people I feel like I'm kind of like, my bona fides here. I do these shows, promoting progressive candidates. I mean, I think we've done every race that's been competitive on this show. And I feel like, very strongly that I support progressive candidates, but I don't want to see Trump become president. And so,
Respectfully,
I'm
where I
kind of like,
disagree with you
I don't know
is
what to feel. And I feel, like I said, I feel kind of dirty even thinking about that Shapiro should be the strategic choice. And I'm not saying he should be. I'm just saying that it should be considered. And anyway,
I don't think that
I've
strategy
kind of been
works.
thinking about that all afternoon because I feel bad about it, I guess. And I don't know. I mean, so maybe you can express your feelings about it. And
yeah, what
go
you're
from
saying
there.
with being strategic, I don't think that is good strategy to pick the person that will appease people who want essentially, in my opinion, bad policy. And I would point, when you mentioned Warren and Sanders, I would point to Warren and Sanders as why that doesn't work. Yeah, Warren was more willing to bend what she believed in to try to win over people rather than explain her case. And what you got was Bernie was more popular. And when you look in 2016, the swings, the districts that Bernie did best in for the Democratic primaries are all districts that went to Trump. So if you want to know how to reach the other side of the aisle, it's not to get closer to them in terms of where they are with their policies already, because that's fundamentally against what you're going to ask them to do anyway. You're going to ask them to vote for a party they don't normally lean towards. What you do is be honest about what you believe in and make a strong case for what you believe in, and let the strength of that case carry you to victory in the polls, irregardless of where people are already. You've got, 3 months if you're Kamala Harris to go convince people. Come up with some great policies and pitch those policies and pick a VP that's going to help you carry out those policies regardless of where they stood in the past, you're interested in where they are now. That's what I think. I don't think that the way to win over a Southern voter who doesn't really watch all that much news is to pick somebody who they, at a glance, love. Because I don't think we're in that America anymore. I don't think we've been in that America since 2016.
Yeah, I would say that the thing I really disagreed with Sam on, it is essentially he was just stating that this is going to be the policy that Harris was employing about trying to, and I guess they're already doing this in Georgia, where Bashir is going to these red states and trying to like lessen margins, pick up some votes in these red states. That is a losing strategy. I said that on the air. And if she sticks with that strategy, that's terrible. I mean, this is something that the progressives generally realize, is that they realize you try to turn out your base. That's what you need to do. Centrists, more or less, think that they can convince other kind of centrist Republicans that don't really exist anymore that they can try to get to change their minds about candidates. And there's a small percentage that will change their mind, but it's a very small percentage. The word that I should have used over and over again is negative partisanship. That's what dominates politics right now. It's against the other party is more important than your own party, because everybody's voting, against Trump, and the Republicans are now voting against Harris. And that's the big motivating factor. And so I really hope Harris does not employ that tactic, because that is a losing tactic. I mean, Beto O'Rourke tried that tactic, and he was like, saying, oh, and I went to every county in Texas. I went to the Panhandle, and I went to East Texas. And it's like, yeah, and how many votes did you pick up in the Panhandle? How many votes did you pick up in East Texas? You could have stayed in Austin, Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, Metro, Fort Worth area, El Paso, and get all of these, turn out your base. And I just don't get that strategy. It's a losing strategy, and if they keep doing that, I think they're making a huge mistake, and I just hope they don't do that.
Agreed.
I was going to say earlier, there are some results that are in. All of the uncontested races have been decided. There's that. We're not reporting on that. We're reporting on that and everything equally. But other than that, I got nothing. 0% reporting in. So it's really weird. What do you guys think about this? Where is it? It's so annoying. It's so annoying because I've had this open for a while. Here we go. Fox News poll.
Oh yeah.
Is this just, and I mean, I don't, I would see something like this on MSNBC and go, okay, you fudged those numbers, but this is Fox News. Does that give any credibility to this poll?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, those are favorability ratings. So those aren't actual poll results.
Right.
Right. But yeah, I mean, I think I tweeted that out when that came out a few days ago.
It says poll right on top, Fox News poll.
Yeah, but it says favorability rating on the top, though. I mean,
there is a reader note here. That's why I wanted to post it. Harris having a 57% favorability rating in Michigan is an error. The actual poll says 47%. So even that, but a lot of people kind of saw this, and this is the kind of thing that will people will see this one time and go, "Oh, she's going to win. Maybe I don't have to vote." Or, "Oh, she's going to win. If I vote for her, I'm voting for the winner." You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
has an
I,
effect.
yeah. I mean, there was a poll that just came out today that actually had Harris winning by 11 points in Michigan. It was a, what was it? Yeah, it was I'm trying to remember what poll it was, but in the same, it was all swing state polls, and she was down in Philadelphia, in Pennsylvania by 4. And so the ratio, she was a plus 19 among women voters in Michigan. And I think Trump was a plus 11 among men voters. And so, yeah, those results are great in Michigan, but ultimately Georgia was tied. And so whoever would have won Georgia would be the winner, if you just based it on one poll. But there was also a Susquehanna poll, which is a much better pollster than the other one. I think I believe it was Morning Consult who had the six swing state, and Susquehanna had Harris up by 4. So yeah, she's got to make a pick. What I'm reading is she's going to make a pick by next Monday or Tuesday, and it has to be done by next Wednesday.
Yeah.
And so
The convention.
yeah, well, no, the convention doesn't start until the 19th, but
Oh, that's not the night. Oh, you're right. No, you're right. Okay, that's still like another week out.
yeah, that's what I was saying on
So
Twitter.
why does it have to be by Wednesday?
I don't know. That's just what I'm reading. I don't know all the details. I really probably should look that up. But when everybody's saying it, it probably is right. But I should probably look it up myself.
Everyone is like, let's get on to policy now. Can you please just pick your VP?
Yeah, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all. This is a very important pick, and
Yeah.
what bothers me is progressives were kind of, this is always the way it is. They're not considered for VP picks. It's just like, okay, it's kind of what Emma was saying today, that people consider, just the normie Democrats consider, or like your average voter consider Harris to be liberal, even though she really isn't, And
what does it look like behind the scenes? Are people just going, nobody's talking about Tim Walz? Like, nobody's talking about him? Or are they all just like, no, we've already decided, we know who it is, we're just waiting? Or
I think
what's
they
going
already
on?
have decided.
Why are they waiting?
Well, I don't think they have decided. I think that I think that they're looking, they're trying to, I just read last night that they were vetting Gary Peters, who is a conservative, he's a moderate to conservative Michigan senator, and who's not, I wouldn't recommend him at all. But
let me give this to Gary Peters' favor. And I am somebody who spent 90% of my career busting his balls. But in his favor, he doesn't give a not about you, not about anything. And that works both ways. Whatever Democrats generally are supporting, he will go for. If you put Medicare for all in front of him, he'll be like, okay. If you put never Medicare for all as a bill in front of him, he'll be like, okay. He's just a signature in my experience.
Is what's happening though? Like, they're looking at what people are saying online or the news, or are there consultants sitting around going, we like this guy just because of we'll get more donations if you have this guy on the ticket. Or how's this going?
I got to interrupt the answer because let me throw in. Are you also telling me earlier that Kamala Harris didn't already have a binder full of headshots for her dream scenario, which is now presently happening? I'm just saying. She must have been fantasizing about this moment for a long time. All right, please, serious answer.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think this is a very serious situation. I think that they put a lot of thought into it. I mean, it's not the kind of thought that I would put into it, because I would consider, other different people,
Yeah.
progressives that kind of, beat what I'm looking for, but that's not what they're looking for. And I do think it's very serious, and they are vetting people. And Gina Raimondo, who I don't like at all, is also, they just last night I was reading they were considering her and they were trying to vet her, and so I think they don't have a pick yet at all. I mean,
Are they walking the line though? Or are they doing this in order? Is it like, tell me why you think it's very serious. It's very serious to them because they're trying to court favor with all voters who are currently supporting them, the left and the more centrist folks, and donors alike, or is it serious to them because this is how we beat Trump? Like, how
Yeah.
do you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I
and
think
are
it's
those really that different?
Yeah, no, I think that they're trying to win. I mean, and that's why Shapiro is the leading candidate. I mean, they're
So
trying to win, and they think that
Mm.
he can deliver. He can deliver Pennsylvania, and whether it's right or wrong, that's what they're thinking.
Do you
And I'll
think that Harris
go
is
ahead.
ever like, wow, there's a lot of tweets about how much everyone really hates Mark Kelly on Twitter. Do you think they like, because there's a lot of people on Twitter who would love to think that they're all their tweets are being seen.
I actually do
somehow.
think yes.
Yeah.
I think to a degree they're staffed by folks of all ages, including folks who are online, and there are some that are definitely saying like, well, X show or Y show or this whatever the left's version of cat turd is says this, and they have this many followers. I'm sure they have reports like that.
I was thinking Shapiro for a long time would be a great president. And then all it took for me was to hear what he had to say about Israel and Gaza. And I was like, yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, in policy, if you're just looking at straight policy, he's bad. I mean, and he's the worst choice to make. So.
Do you think, John, they are paying attention to online chatter at all?
Yeah, I think they are. I don't know, not necessarily, not just online chatter, but there are writers who are leftist writers, who have followings, and they're listening to them also, and they're aware that people on the left do not like Shapiro, and they don't like Kelly that much either, and so yeah.
Did you all see that rumor that Obama had to call Biden and threaten using the 25th Amendment? That did not happen, right?
No way.
I
No
can't
way.
see that happening. Although it's fun to think about.
Yeah, I was gonna. Yeah, it would be fun to think about, but it didn't happen. No way.
There is like a fictionalized version of American politics that I think would be very, very entertaining if somebody put the energy into it and did it in a way that didn't try to legitimize it, but did it in a way that made it like very soap opera, but
Yeah.
not like sappy soap opera, but like Obama going, I'm going to use the 25th. I'm going to call Biden right now and threaten the 25th Amendment. And Michelle Obama's like, don't do that. He's like, no, I'm going to do it. I don't know. I think that would be funny as hell. But
In bed with the glasses halfway down the nose. No, I'm gonna do it.
cut
Yeah,
to
I like that.
Kamala going, oh God, I'm just looking at Twitter. This guy, the Letterhack, doesn't like Mark Kelly. Eesh. Okay. Another clip.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I like what Taran has to say about immigration. So let's go to that.
Well, it is time now to start with the real questions at this moment. And today here in Arizona, the Senate passed an act, a very controversial act, that would allow law enforcement, local law enforcement, to question the status of any people that is suspected to be an immigrant. A lot of people think we'll be going back to the days of SB 1070. If you win this election, once you get to Congress, what are some of the actions you will take to prevent this situation here in our state that would affect the economy, history tells us, and divide our state in many ways? We'll start with the answer of Ms. Teran.
Thank you, Mandy, for that question. I am a proponent of comprehensive immigration reform. We wouldn't have these type of legislation if we have comprehensive immigration reform. I got started in Arizona politics because there was a rise of the anti-immigrant sentiment after 9/11. And I am proud to be part of the movement that has fought back against laws like SB 1070. And we've been winning. In 2010, we recalled Russell Pierce, the author of SB 1070. We ousted Sheriff Arpaio. But at the end of the day, we need to make sure that we have comprehensive immigration reform. And this comprehensive immigration reform includes a pathway for citizenship for 11 million people. It includes a solution for the dreamers who have been ousted from the DACA program. It includes resources for the border. It includes modernizing our asylum seekers program. And of course, resources for the border. And I'm going to say that we need to make sure that we end for-profit detention centers, immigration detention centers. And I am committed to make sure that we get that done. I know that we've had a majority, both with Democrats and Republicans, and the issue has been politicized. It has been, it's been taken on by the most extremists. And we need to make sure that we return the humanity to this issue.
Thank you, Mr.
Yeah, return the humanity to all the issues, particularly that one. It's this, there are hundreds of thousands of people dying every year from immigrants. What? That would lead you to believe that there are entities that are committing mass genocide right here in the U.S. and it's not. Should we keep going on anti-immigration?
Yeah, I just want to say that, at the New York Times, they're saying first results expected after 11 p.m. Eastern time. So right now we're at
10:58 p.m.
Eastern time. So results should be coming in only an hour late.
The candidates got to be freaking out, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I would just be like on the phone. What the fuck is going on?
Yeah, I mean,
in
it's
a
like
city though. I guess it's across the state. I don't know. I mean, it's not that weird to me. It takes a while to count these things.
Yeah, but not usually. Not usually. They'll have usually they'll have ballots, mail-in ballots and early ballots, people who have already voted, and those usually come out pretty quickly. I mean, usually 10 to 15 minutes.
I'm sorry, you were still making a point. I thought it ended quickly. Go ahead.
After the polls close, and so to have it an hour of just nothing across the whole state seems very bizarre to me.
Yeah, it's like they're sitting on it.
I think they are. I think that's exactly what's happening. But I think they have a good reason for it because they know uninformed folks have been told by insane right-wingers that, oh, this is stolen, that's stolen. And the last time they pre-counted ballots and slapped them
Arizona
up
was
early,
a big one.
And Maricopa County, too. Yeah.
Yeah.
The last time they did that, they got in trouble for it.
That's a good point. So, I didn't think of that. Maybe they're just look, guys, pump the brakes on the results. Huh.
Yeah. And they might stagger it, but it looks like not.
Yeah, I mean, to where everything, you'll just get one result and it'll say 80% of the vote is in. And I mean, because that's what Florida does, in the presidential race. I mean, they actually have the best system of anybody, to where at 7 p.m. Central, you get 85% of the vote in, total votes, everything from mail-in votes to early votes to day of the election votes, 85% of them are in, and they do a good job on that. And it's great to right when you see the votes, and it's like, oh, this is, you don't have to. I'm not. This is another contradiction that the Republicans do. Like, there's an article, I guess, in the Washington Post about this, about how in Pennsylvania they tried to get it to where they wanted to count the votes early, and they never got it passed. And so you're gonna have to deal with the same thing, to where the votes are going to come in late, and then the Republicans will complain, like, because it's going to be what they say, it's going to be a red mirage. In other words, all the rural counties are going to come in first, and they're going to show Trump with the lead, and then when all the mail order ballots come in, and all the people who are voting in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, who work during the day and vote at, let's say, 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock, in long lines, and and it takes a long time for their votes to get cast. Later on, when their votes do end up being counted, and they end up overtaking the Republicans, like they did in Pennsylvania in 2020 by, I think it was 1.1%, they complain about that, and they say, everybody should it should just go on who won on the opening night. There's just so many contradictions. They're trying to create problems where, if you just use a logical assessment, that's exactly what happened. 78% of the vote is in. Ansari is up by 4.5%.
Yep.
Yeah.
That real quick, we were talking about having to choose the VP by a certain date for Harris. Does somebody in the chat was mentioned? I think this was in relation to that. Is it a ballot deadline issue? Do they have to have the pick by a certain date because it's a ballot issue? Is that
Well,
no?
yeah, what I've read is that there's some kind of virtual roll call, and so that needs to happen, because that's the way the convention was set up.
And there's reporting from NBC News that Harris and future running mate will be in Philadelphia next Tuesday.
Yeah, I read that also.
Okay. Well, I don't like those results so far. What are the chances that this is where we're at, and what are the chances that this could change? 78% of votes.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, 4.5%. She's down 100 and 1,403 votes. I'm surprised that Wooten's getting 11% of the vote. In polls, he only is getting 4%. So that may have cut into Tehran's votes.
I like that he was honest about being a part-timer. And so,
gosh.
Yeah. I without knowing exactly where the votes are coming from, like what section, because it's one county, usually in larger areas or, more rural areas, you'll go through several different counties, and, you can kind of get a feel for it, what's out and what's not out. But, in a city that's in one county, in a large city, it's really hard to know that. Let me just look at the let's see.
I'll vamp a little bit here. Then
I want to try to look at the first district. See.
Here you go.
See who's winning there.
Shah, 24.2%.
This is why the older way of
this looks
doing
like
things
Miss
to my
Shaw
preference.
is the same thing, 79% of the vote in, and he's at 24.2%. Andre Cherney at 21.6%. Marlene Galen Woods at 20.6, and Colin O'Callahan at 18.3. So, yeah,
Do you
that actually does. I think this. I think this is. They have different counties, but I don't see any. It's not just in Phoenix, because this is like a cracked area to where it's partially in Phoenix and then partially in rural areas.
you want to
Uh,
you want to
and
hear
that's why the
something?
district is so swingy, because the Democrat will win in the Phoenix area and the Republican will win in the rural areas.
Here's
So
a fun little
yeah, I mean
fact.
Amish Shaw's not horrible, but just
Mm.
kind of an average Democrat. Let's hope what's 2000 2,000 votes. Marlene Galen Woods is 2,000 votes behind him.
I got some interesting thoughts here. First of all, do you have any thoughts on David? I hope I'm saying this right. Schweikert, who apparently had some scandals
Yeah, I mean
recently.
he's a conservative. I mean, actually he's more moderate than most of the like Trumpy type people. But yeah, I mean he's
He's not
still
exactly crushing this. I mean, he's winning surely with the percentage votes in and how far ahead he is. But I mean, Kim George took a chunk out of his votes.
yeah. I mean yeah, it's a 63.1. I mean that's a majority, but yeah, it's not a vast majority. Uh, yeah, I think there were some issues also with Swikert and let me just try to. There were some things about him.
He had some scandal, and I'm afraid
Yeah,
I don't recall what it was even. So it probably wasn't interesting enough to to truly change things. I just think it's interesting that he's uh, not handily running away with. I guess you could call 63% running away with it, but not as. I think it's a sign of weakness that's good. And on a related note, I'll just toss this out here. Have a look at how much of the vote Nikki Haley has right now versus Donald Trump in the Arizona primary. I hadn't realized that there was still such a Haley push, but 17%.
yeah. I
Uh,
mean,
Wow, really? Look at this, Carrie Lake, handily.
yeah,
oh,
yeah. That's about what I was expecting, though. An 11-point lead. It pulls that are by about 12, and so
They're not calling it yet, though. So, what are the chances that Tehran has any kind of an opportunity to come back here?
I it's hard to know, really. I mean,
it
When do they
depends on
call
who
it?
the
80%?
outstanding, who the
uh,
uncounted votes are, where those are coming from.
right. Let's see.
God, what if Carrie Lake is challenged right away and they're like, this was bullshit? Do you think she's going to be like, oh, have some faith in our system, people?
Oh, I
Uh,
hope so.
It's impossible to cheat. What are you talking about?
Sweet justice.
Yeah, I just don't. Yeah, I wish I knew exactly. Like with the Bowman race, you could look at like the Bronx, and you could look at Westchester County and see where he's strong. But I mean, which is like I said before. I mean, it's impossible to know what precincts have come in and what haven't come in. Uh, I mean, Tehran could pull it off. I mean, like I said, the last poll was conducted by the Ansari campaign, and she was leading by 11. So usually, when you pay somebody to uh, to do a poll for you, they usually fudge the numbers about 3% on average, in your favor. I don't know if they always do that, but that's just kind of the way that what I've gleamed, throughout the years, as a
Hmm.
percentage. But
It's like going to the doctor to see if you have cancer and knowing that they're going to lean 3% more to telling you don't, regardless of whether or not it's true. Like,
Wow.
oh, I don't want to offend my client.
They called it for David Schweikert.
Well, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
So, yeah,
We got-
it's kind of driving me crazy every time I look at Kerry Lake's results. It's like, here they come, they're rolling in, and then you look at, well, maybe that's because there's less reporting, but then we look at District 3 and it's just sitting there.
I can't look. First of all, Tehran's got a real chance here. It's 72% of the votes in. She's only down by 4%. Is it likely that they're gonna break her way? I don't know. I just don't know. But it's it's a race. It's close. It could change. Let's look at both scenarios. Let's look at just one. If Tehran wins, that's good news for progressives. Let's just assume that the ratio stays the same. She loses. What do you think she does next? How does she turn this near win into something useful for the progressive causes? What can she do?
She can run again in 2 years.
Fair enough.
I mean,
Will her endorsement matter?
Yeah, I mean, I think she has some bona fides running in a close race. If she loses by 5 points, that's respectable. She could go back to the state senate. She was the minority leader there. I think that Arizona is definitely trending towards Democrats, even though in the presidential race it hasn't been that way. Part of the polling in those the last poll they came out with, it did the swing states. What was it? I forgot. I just said it. They actually had Harris winning in Arizona, to where Biden was just getting slaughtered in Arizona. I mean, just terribly. And to where, you look at Ruben Gallego, and he's got leads on Kerry Lake in polling. He very likely is going to win. Across the board in Senate swing districts, swing state districts, they're winning in all of those races. And so, I mean, I think that happened in 2022. So, the Trump figures who base their politics on him, aren't winning at all. There's a special quality that moves Republicans to vote for Trump, but in swing districts, they do not vote for his accolades. I mean, you saw it all in 2022, to where, I mean, they didn't, Democrats actually gained a seat in the Senate. Now, the big question is going to be, like, all eyes are going to be on Montana. Can John Tester win again and have a split ticket win, to where they're voting for Trump in a +20 state in Montana, but here he is trying to win that state, but he's already done it 3 times, and so, can he do it again is the question. He is down a little bit in polling, and if he loses that race and they can't pick up a seat in Florida, which they probably won't pick up, at that point the Republicans will win the Senate, and that'll be terrible. Because they can if Trump wins and they control the Senate, they can install more judges, which will really be terrible.
What do you think about the proposed Supreme Court reform? How likely is this? Mike Johnson says, no, that's dead on arrival. This is what I love. Somebody says, hey, they should be 18-year term limits, which is a lifetime, and not literally, but that's a long time. And we just need some ethics rules, and somebody actually just chirps up right away and goes, no. Why not? Okay, forget about the terms. Why not ethics rules? And why would you be opposed to that? It just, to me, is so transparently crooked. I can't
Yeah.
believe he would just come right out and be like, this is never going to happen. But okay, sounds good. It needs congressional approval. What do you think? Is this something that could be reality with the correct Congress, or is there no Congress in the country ever that would pass this?
I mean,
Future Congress.
I'll do my 5-second thoughts. I think yes, but they got to be Democrats. You have to have a Democrat House and Senate. And as far as explaining why, go watch my channel. I think Republicans are corrupt and will protect other corrupt practices on general principle. But if you want an intelligent answer, John?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I wasn't paying enough attention.
Just what are the odds that we're actually going to get some
Supreme Court
reform passed?
Yeah,
And
I
what
think
needs to happen?
Johnson's right. I mean, without a house that'll do anything, nothing's going to happen. I mean, they've got to win the house back. I mean, you have to have a trifecta. I mean, I think I was talking about this, on one of my early shows on this channel about, if you don't have a trifecta, you can't do anything. And so, like, I think that everybody who values and says, well, the economy is terrible, and therefore, I'm not going to vote for whatever party is in power because they're the ones that made it terrible. Well, if you have a trifecta, if you don't have a trifecta, you can't do anything. Everything is just a constant compromise. But people don't think that way. They don't like sit down and think about the logic of how our government works. And so they can't do it. As far as, I got a question, what percentage causes a runoff in Arizona? There are no runoffs in Arizona. Runoffs are mostly old legacies of the South were put in place to block black voters from gaining power. And so, in other words, like if there are 7 people running, and and the black candidate has the majority or plurality of votes, then the way that they would counter that is to say, oh, we're going to have a runoff, and then all of a sudden it's going to be the white candidate versus the black candidate, and the white candidate would always win. And so now lately that's actually gone against them, like in the Georgia Senate race in 2020. If they had just gone on a plurality of the vote, because the Libertarian got like 3% of the vote, and they forced it into a runoff, and in the runoff the Democrat won. So it's weird how this thing that is a racist kind of icon actually went against them. So.
Oh yeah, as irony of ironies, as they're becoming the minority. The Republican way of politics as well is just becoming less and less popular. Those rules, ironically, that they put in place are going to turn around and bite them more and more often.
That's some fascinating insight, though, to runoffs, John. I didn't know that. I
Thank
think
you.
this is. I just want to thank you both again for legitimizing this live stream, and I'm really looking forward to having you both here again and again. I want to remind everyone that we'll be back here Tuesday, August 6th for Cori Bush's primary race, specifically Cori Bush, but we will be also checking in on Washington State, of course. Go back and watch my interview last night with the Washington State Green Party candidates for District 2 and governor. and our good friend and member of our community here, Annie Fitzgerald, running in Washington State District 38.
We're
Also,
going to be 3 Michael Jacksons asking, Annie, are you okay?
that's great. And thank you. And I sort of take back what I was saying about legitimizing the live stream, but not really. I'm just kidding. So we'll also be here on the 13th for Ilhan Omar's race. John, what do you think about Cori Bush? And I had actually I don't know where it is now, but I had a question that I was supposed to ask you. What
Yeah.
you think about her chances and how close a race that's going to be?
Okay, there was a recent poll that just came out, and I think she was down by 6 points. Just going off the top of my head, she was indicted or by the FBI for paying her husband $750,000 as the security, for security work for her, which is a lot of money, and she's still paying him money. Like in their most recent financial statement said that she's still paying money to them, and that's a little bit bizarre.
Is that enough for her opponent for votes to be taken away from her and given to her opponent, though? Like who's she running against, and why is that or not realistic?
She's running against Wesley Bell, and I don't know. He's got a lot of money. He's got a lot of people. I believe it's APAC people, but I'd have to look at all of the donor lists. She's going to have a hard time winning that race. I think Ilhan Omar will win. She's outraised her opponent by millions of dollars. She came close to losing last time after, I always were mocking all these people like Politico or saying, oh, these squad members, they're going to lose. And they always win by 30 points. But this in 2022, Ilhan Omar almost lost. I believe she won by only like 2 points. And so I think she's taking this a lot more serious. She's dealt with constituent problems a lot better. And she's also, put her infrastructure is a lot better also, and I just think she's gonna win. She's outraised her opponent by, like I said, millions of dollars. Last time I checked, it was like $3 million, and that's that's almost always whoever raises the most money almost always wins. It shouldn't be like that, but it is.
Well, especially if it's a progressive, because there's not massive companies writing a check for $5 million or whatever to a progressive. Those are almost certainly small dollar donations to one degree or another. It could be a PAC, it could be the Democrats, but it's a better measure of actual voter support when it comes to how much money they raise when you're talking about someone like Ilhan Omar. I think that's a wonderful sign. I hadn't realized she had raised so much.
Yeah, she's raised a lot of money. I mean, and I believe that the last time I checked, it was $6 million. It's a lot of money. I mean, I guess I can check it on Open Secrets, but yeah, I think she will win fairly easily. Cori Bush is, like I said, is going to have a hard time.
Well, since we're talking about numbers, I would like to point out that today is this channel's birthday.
Cool.
And in the last year, we have gained 2,317 new subscribers. I'm very proud of that. I would like to thank everyone. I would like to thank the 20 or so that we got today. You guys make it happen. And the whole reason I do this is to engage with the community and people outside of my very small little town where I live, and I just want to say thanks and for tuning in to things like tonight, our election coverage. You have a lot of options when it comes to who you turn to for this sort of insight, analysis, and commentary. And I sincerely appreciate the commitment and the dedication, and we will try to live up to your expectations, which is exactly why I have your old pal Jake Drog Ellis on the show tonight and John from San Antonio, even though getting a lot of flack from Sam Cedar and Emma Vigeland.
I don't think we need to name names. Let's just say certain major streamers.
It's out there. It's out there. And they put it out there. I'm just anyway. But anyway, yeah, that's a milestone for me. Big deal. I thought the channel would be like just 2 or 3 of us all the time, me drawing pictures, people watching, sort of engaging, but it's fun and there's a lot going on, and I can like randomly go live on a Saturday at like 11 p.m. and there's a bunch of people watching, like hundreds.
Cool.
I really dig it. It's so fun to know that I won't do it if I don't have something to talk about or share. But anyway, just to let everyone know, we have some just programming note very quickly. We have some wholesome content. We have a lot more political content. We have I don't know how to describe Left Past 10 anymore, but we have that as well. Very fun, very unique compared to the rest of the online left. And before and more members only live streams. They happen Tuesday mornings at 11 a.m. Eastern when they happen. Stay tuned for more on that. And also call-in show. We got another call-in show on the way. Don't worry. I haven't been doing those in a while. I haven't forgot about them. We're definitely going to be doing that. So anyway, back to the election coverage.
Yeah, I wish I could say that there's any new votes coming in. There hasn't been any results in 18 minutes in the 3rd district. I think it's the same thing.
Makes me so mad that Carrie Lake is happy tonight about anything, but especially an election, that she's sitting there going, you know, this justifies everything I was saying. You know what I mean? They're just going to use this to their bad faith.
But I mean, who's she? I mean, Carrie Lake, I think when it comes to the general, I don't care where she's running. I don't care how foolish I will sound when I am proven wrong. I don't think she can win again. She's made an ass of herself so publicly and so thoroughly. I have to believe that the good people of
sorry, jump scare.
John, what do you think? Is she a doomed candidate?
I think she is doomed. I mean, but she almost won in 2022? I mean, yeah, I mean, that was basically everybody thought she was going to win. That was the only governor's race that I missed in that cycle.
Well, it kept going for a long time after it was over, so you had other opportunities.
It was super close. I mean, even the polling lead that Lake had was like 1%, and she ended up losing. So maybe even less than 1%. I don't know. I'm not sure if I actually wrote that down on my pinned tweet or not, but she's awful. I mean, she was like interviewed by somebody from the BBC, and I love when they turn around and they can't actually argue with you on facts. And so they start saying things like, well, you're from Britain. What do you know about elections? And they start like insulting them.
I say that about Canadians a lot.
But yeah, I mean, she was just basic asking factual things about her. And she just, she can't handle it, because she's so crazy in her whole beliefs. And
she's up against what? Ruben Gallego, right?
Yeah, she's against Gallego.
Yeah,
he's a person who, if I found out they were driving my hypothetical kids to school, I wouldn't panic. Yeah. Whereas if I thought my kids were in a car with Carrie Lake, I'd be like, oh God, oh God, oh God. Like there's just Carrie Lake has I don't know. I think I know Carrie Lake is celebrating tonight, but I think Gallego also is.
Yeah, a little bit disappointed in the Democratic vote totals. I mean, I know that a lot of people don't really go by this, but I think that actually there's some correlation. It's much higher than most people say it is between vote totals in primaries and actual results in the general. So right now in the first district, the Republicans have 74,247 votes with 66% of the votes in, where Democrats have 59,379 at 72%. And so
that's not good.
Yeah, but I mean it's this is the +2 Biden district, and so this is a district that is very winnable. If they can turn out people in the Northwest Phoenix area, I mean Northeast Phoenix area, and actually it goes through part of like the northern central Phoenix area also, and but yeah, I mean.
Overall, I have to say that I've been, despite what you just said, I've been impressed that Americans in general and Democrats specifically are turning out for more elections than they used to. But tonight has been a little. I didn't catch that until you had mentioned it, and that is super disappointing. Democrats, show up to every election. Make it a habit. Even if you hate everybody on the ballot, go in and write Mickey Mouse. Just show up. For my sake.
Yeah, so like if you look at the third district, there's 31,000 votes, which is actually pretty low with 72% in. But it's only 9,000, not even 10,000 votes, 9,791 in the Republican primary, So that's
it still makes me wonder then why with so few votes did they wait so long to give. I mean, they probably knew who won at 3:00 this afternoon, right? Like
no, because I mean all the people who vote after work. I mean, there's a lot of people who vote after work. I mean,
it should be a holiday.
Yeah, I agree.
It should be, yes. Hey, gentlemen, very quickly, I can still hear you. I have a contact that is killing me. If you don't mind, I'm going to step away for one moment, but I'll still be listening.
Yeah. But no, you're right. It maybe okay. So definitely general election voting should be a holiday. I don't know about primaries. What do you think?
That's going to be hard to. It's hard to do that for every single elean. You
should
can
it all be mail-in?
Yeah, I think they should all be. I mean, I think you should have the option like California does. I mean, it costs more money if you do it that way. But if you want to mail it in, you can mail it in. If you want to go and vote in person, you can vote in person. To where a lot of other states, there's no choice. You have to vote by mail. I'm a little bit nervous personally about voting by mail because I'm just afraid I'm going to screw it up, to where if you vote in person, you don't screw it up. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean,
I did it for years in Colorado, and I did screw it up. And but I didn't mail it in. So I took it in, and the way it worked was they would destroy it right there, right? I'd go, here's my incorrect one. They'd destroy it right in front of me and everyone. And then you would go into a booth and do it. So it's not like you would just do another mail in. And so I was like, okay, that's fine. But it was just one of these things where I was like, why did I just fill that in? Shit, I can't cross it out and initial it, right? So, so then I had to go in. Not that big of a deal. Only happened once, but after that, I was ultra focused on what I was doing and making the correct move, and I kind of appreciated that. I was like, okay, it made me raise the bar as far as like paying attention. But yeah, I was gonna ask what your preference was.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like that there's do either one, but when people go, I like being there, I'm like, yeah, you want to get out of work. Whatever. It's fine.
yeah,
I'm cool with that too.
yeah. I mean, I usually vote early because I just don't like the idea that like you're waiting until the day of the election and then let's say there is a family emergency, and
All
like,
right.
you have a loved one who's in the hospital, and then you got to decide, am I going to vote or am I going to see my loved one
Yeah.
in the hospital? I mean, I know the percentage is super low that that's going to happen, but I just don't like the idea that it could happen,
Yeah.
And so
I'm with you 100%. And on a related note, the general should be a holiday, and I understand why the primary isn't. But let me throw this out there: the answer to all of this, we're just trying to make sure that everybody has a chance to vote. The answer to all this is exactly what Republicans would like to have not happen, which is, as you say, early voting, and the fact that you can just fill out your ballot, you get it sent to you. You don't have to mail it in if you don't want. You get it sent to you, drive down to the county commissioner's office, just like you would have whatever polling place, and hand it in. Easy peasy. If you work on whatever day, you don't have to worry about it because you filled out your ballot a week ago.
Yeah, I would never literally mail them. I did that a couple of times, but I it was so close to my house. It was like I'm not kidding. I just walk by this place on the way to my favorite pub. I just drop it in the
Yeah.
box right there and like move on, but
Make a night of it.
um
Absolutely.
hey, Kirsten Engel, is she in a safe district?
no, that's
Uh,
the district that is
Six?
yeah, that's the sixth district. That is a 0.1 Biden district. So I mean, this is like as close as of a district as you could possibly have. I believe Cisco Mani won by
Here we go.
maybe a point in 2022. It was super close. I mean, this is one of those things that they didn't make a call until, I don't know, 3 or 4 days after the election was over, because they just, it was just too close. Let me see. Let me get the exact win total.
And I just want
amount.
to just quickly apologize for yawning. I work with kids. They take a lot of energy. I'll just watch them and feel tired.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah,
So much energy. It's
yeah.
crazy.
So yeah, Cisco Mani actually won by 1.4, which is more than I thought it was. But
Still.
yeah, so the Schweikert race in Arizona's first district was closer. That was actually a 0.8 point win from Schweikert, even though Biden won that district by a larger margin than he won in the sixth district. So yeah, I mean, that guy's Juan Cisco Mani is a lunatic. I mean, he is really one of these extreme MAGA people who is just crazy. I mean, Eli Crane is another one who's also nuts. I mean, and he won by, I guess, 8 points in 2022. Let's see.
How does this happen? How do these folks? I like when you say this guy's nuts. I get a general sense of what you mean. He's probably anti-democracy. He's probably believes a lot of things that are simply not true. How does the average voter end up supporting someone like this? I don't expect you to actually have an answer, but I want to ask you anyway. Like, what do they say? What do they say about him that's good?
Well, I think that a lot of, I mean, I don't want to get into too much into generalizing about rural voters, but I do feel that, just statistically, rural voters support conservatives, and they they really believe what Trump says, and I think he's just kind of messaging what Trump has said. I mean, I'm just looking at this district. It's actually a 20% Native American district, and I'm sure that they vote for the Democrat more so than the others. But yeah, it's a +9. Was that right? A +9 Biden district? I don't think that's right. Looking at this, that's not right. A +11 Biden. That's not right.
I
Yeah.
love that you can just look at something and go, "That's not right." I would look at something and go, "Okay, sounds good."
Yeah,
I'm
I mean,
assuming somebody did this correctly.
yeah, I think sometimes what they do on Wikipedia is that they'll put in, like, let's say that they don't realize that, like, this is redistricted, so like the second district used to be let's see, yeah, so it used to be the first district, and the second district is the sixth district, which doesn't make sense, because that's, yeah, I don't know. There's no way that this is a +11 Biden district, though. That Eli Crane won by 8 points. There's no way that's just not right. And so another district that is the fourth district. Greg Stanton. I don't think he's running. Nobody's running against him. Is there? Let me see. The fourth district. Are they actually Republicans? I mean, it's a 12-point. He won a 12-point victory in 2022. Let's see. Okay, now I'm not even trying to get this to where it's. Oh, here it is. Okay, here it is. Yeah, the Democrat. Yeah, it's uncontested. So anyway, Stanton should win. Also, I mean, this is also part of Phoenix. Heading out to the suburbs. So yeah, the 8th district is this is a two again, lunatics, Hamadeh and Masters. Masters is the one who ran against Mark Kelly and got blown out, and that's 65% of the vote, with Hamadeh up by 6.4. Yeah, I mean, I guess they're gonna win that district, though. Let me see. Let me just go back and see what that district was in 2022.
No movement on District 3, just to let everyone know.
Yeah, is that district? Yeah, this is District 8. Oh, so nobody even ran against Debbie Lesko. So there were 2 districts in 2022 where a Democrat didn't run, which is, that should never happen. Even if it's a +20 or a +30 district, you've got to run a candidate. You've got to try to get your issues out there. And so, yeah. I just don't know if we're going to get any. When are we going to get more results in? I guess is my question.
Well, I was just going to say, why would they do it like wait an hour and then the second set would be 45 minutes later? I'm thinking maybe an hour.
Okay, what I'm thinking is the way it's usually done is they took a while to count the mail-in votes. They took a while to count the early votes, and now what's out are the votes that came in today, people who voted today. And so I mean, I guess that's the way it's usually done. So I mean, I don't know how that's going to affect, let's say, the Ansari Tehran race. Uh, I mean, generally, more conservatives have a tendency to vote on the day of the election, so that's not good for Tehran. But I mean, who knows? I mean, it could be different.
Well, you've answered what I was going to ask, which is how does that group play for Tehran? Fair enough. I'll toss this out here, and I said it earlier, but I feel like it bears repeating. Even if she does not win, she has already shown that running a very progressive race is effective. That she was the main competition, even if she doesn't end up winning. And I feel like there has to be something there. There has to be value that can be taken from that, even if it's not the seat itself.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I totally agree with that. And, that I think this is what we were talking about earlier. That's why I wanted progressives to run because, as I was talking about on the majority report, they just didn't run. They just didn't run these races. And
Yeah.
so when you don't even, I mean, there has been a malaise among progressives, in this cycle. I mean, it started after the 22 election, and I don't quite understand it. I mean, you can also point out to like DSA peaked in 2018, and I mean, and so I think that people are kind of losing interest to a certain degree. Uh, I mean, I'm not completely. I just think that sometimes younger voters are more. I wouldn't say accepting, but I mean they're just not as enthusiastic about candidates as they had been in let's say in the 2022, 2020, 2018 cycles. And so, I mean, that's why I was so hopeful that Tehran would win tonight, and she still may. She still may win.
Yeah.
But I'm just trying to look for a glimmer of hope, and I just don't know when that's going to come. But yeah, I mean, you just gotta keep fighting, and that's what I hope they can do. So.
I do think we run into a problem of progressives only being conscious of national policies or even international policies. I think if you were to ask somebody that considers themselves progressive to name a local policy that somebody could pitch that would be progressive, I think they would be stumped just with that question because it's so rarely discussed. It's hard to picture what does a progressive city council person look like. So I think to answer the question of why did we not have many running, it's because I don't think there's many getting those positions that teach you how to be a state senator or a whatever congressperson. So I think what we got to do is start talking about local progressive policies that you could enact if you get on the city council or whatever near you.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I don't think it should always be local. I mean, I think it's if you feel like you feel comfortable running, because most people aren't going to just think, be like AOC. Okay, I've never run before, but I'm going to run for federal House seat,
Yeah.
and I'm how old is she I think she's 35 now, or she's going to be 35 a few days before the election, and how like how's she gonna deal with that? And so people feel, different levels of comfort. Like, okay, I'll run for city council first, and then I'll kind of go from there. Like we have two great city council people in San Antonio who are backed by DSA, and they're fantastic. And I kind of want to have them run for mayor, but then, if you run for mayor, you can't defend your district at the same time. You've got to kind of make that leap to where if I run for mayor and I don't win, then I'm not going to have a say in government anymore. And so, I mean, that can backfire on you. I mean, you saw that with Barbara Lee and Katie Porter, where they're not going to be in Congress next year, and Adam Schiff will be the senator from California, and so that can be it's. I mean, because I'm always thinking like we need to, like, especially in the Senate, we need to have progressives in the Senate, and so. But then when they run and they lose, it's just like
what's your general outlook like? Because you think about it, so 10 years from now, or whatever period of time is logical in terms of like elections being off and on election years, right? What's your general outlook 10, 15 years from now, the United States of America government, state of affairs, Congress, whatever it is? Because I ask people, just kind of casually on my interviews, okay, let's say, just thinking about it, if Trump wins and there's a Republican Congress, are we doomed? If the Democrats win, does anything change? Right? So that's just my kind of like little, clever way of saying, what does this matter? What are we doing? We're just moving it this way or this way a little bit. What do you think, John? What's your general outlook? Like, are we going this way? Is it ups and downs? Are we going up? What can we expect?
Well, like I said, I've been disappointed in this cycle because it seems like the progressive movement has lost steam because candidates aren't running. They're not. Progressive organizations like Justice Democrats had to lay off people because they're not getting funding. There's a general malaise, but in general, you look at the issues that young people admire, and they're still very strong. They really understand that climate change is something that needs to be faced. They understand. I think they're just generally more progressive, and I think that things will change eventually because older voters. I mean, I don't want to generalize too much because there are a lot of great older voters. Look at Bernie himself. I mean, look at all the best senators are all in their 70s. Warren, Berkeley, the other one, Markey. They're all in their 70s, and so you don't want to generalize too much. But then you look at opinion polls, about how voters vote. Let's say in the 50 on up, and they vote for a lot of Republicans on issue sets. They think that Republicans have a better economic policy than Democrats. In other words, they still believe in trickle down economics, and that's kind of mind blowing that in 2024 people can still think that Republicans are better on economics. You look at immigration and you see that the policies that essentially are about demonization and otherization of immigrants, and those policies have kind of stuck. And you see Biden kind of aping those policies, and so, and that's kind of like Mark Kelly. Some of the things that he's criticized for is he also apes those policies, and I just somehow I would hope that would change. And I mean, I know I've gotten into trouble saying, eventually, the boomers are going to die off and everything's going to change. But I mean, that is what's going to happen. I mean, as a boomer myself, I mean, that is what's going to happen. I mean,
it's just a matter of time, but do we have time? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Is that what this
well,
comes down to? Is we're running out of time, but it's really just a matter of time before maybe we have to hit rock bottom. Maybe we just barely avoid hitting rock bottom, and then we pull up, and there's this huge progressive, youthful wave or movement.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that this election itself is going to determine a lot. I mean, if Harris can win, then it's going to be hard. I mean, it's going to be, better for everybody. If Trump wins, who knows what's going to happen? I don't know how much of an authoritarian he's going to be. I don't know if he's going to the way most authoritarians work is that they want to have loyalists in the military. And so anybody who's not a loyalist in the military will, be disbarred. Or taken out of the military, not disbarred, but I mean,
at a minimum, the oligarchy thrives.
Right.
Like it just, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think he is so discombobulated, though, that the policy that he has is it's so strange. I mean, it doesn't really make sense, and some of the things that he does really doesn't help the oligarchs at all. Like having these trade policies that doesn't help. That doesn't help people who are wealthy. I mean, at all. Like it doesn't
Do you
help
think
anybody.
people just run with whatever they want? Like, the architects behind Project 2025, they didn't consult him. They're just like, no, we'll do this. Do you know what I mean? And like maybe he had some input or whatever, but I think that's giving him too much credit, sort of.
Yeah, I mean, he's running away from this now which is, I mean, I don't know if I mean, just because he's running away from it now doesn't mean right publicly, right. But I mean, I think that's just because the pushback has been so strong against it that he felt like he had to, and so.
Yeah, it's so funny when he does these. Like, I don't really know what that is, and
yeah.
for people to actually believe that, I've always been of the mind that people who believe anything he says, they don't actually believe. I mean, some of these people do, but they don't actually believe it. They're just like, no, this suits my racist agenda.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
going
the story
with it.
we're going with. Yeah.
But I really do, like, I have to wonder, like, he is just so obviously full of shit. Like, who is going, he's right. Everyone else lying. He's not lying. Like, that is just insane.
Yeah, but I don't think he knows policy, though. I think he's kind of flying on the seat of his pants, and whatever pops into his mind, that's what he goes with. And
he's unfit.
Right. And so, I mean, I just don't think he I don't think he really knows about all the stuff in the that is written, and I'm sorry, I even forgot the name of it now. The
Project 2025.
Project 2025, right? I don't think he knows that stuff. I think
I was going to say the Constitution.
Right, he doesn't know that either. Certainly, I mean, he doesn't know
the Bible.
He doesn't know anything, and that's what's so mind-blowing about his popularity, that he
doesn't have to prove he knows anything. It's just
yeah, I mean, and I just don't understand why he has the how could he get 74 million votes, I guess, is my question. And I still don't have a sociological reason for it, besides people want, I don't know. I think he appeals to people because they find him humorous and they like rich people and they don't understand like how he got rich. He was given everything. They buy into the idea that that he actually earned this money himself when he was actually given the money. And then I guess Sam talks about this a lot, but most of them are just Republican voters who always voted Republicans all their life, and he just represents the newest phase of the party, and they just accept it.
I always think of those guys who testified against him at the January 6th hearings. And then afterward, the press was like, so would you vote for him? He goes, yeah. And it's like, are you serious? Hey, here, let's catch some folks up who have been dipping in and out because we've been here for a while. Mila Razan, friend of mine. I just returned from a meeting with 72% of the vote. It looks like Tehran has a chance. Yasmin, you see the numbers there.
Yeah. I mean,
Did she catch up?
She could. Yeah, sure. I mean, without knowing what districts are in and what districts aren't, it's impossible to say. Precincts, rather, what precincts?
Yeah.
I mean, one thing I'm just thinking about it is, that being 63% Hispanic, maybe the Hispanic districts aren't in, I mean, and that would help her. I mean, this again, I'm relatively sure that this is the day of, the actual votes that came in today. So I don't know when they're going to come in. I mean, I don't know. Like,
we might be getting an update. District.
Let's see, last district. Yeah.
NBC News says 84% in, but I'm seeing the same numbers as New York Times, 72%.
What is the NBC News? What's the?
They're saying 84% in,
but are they giving the same numbers?
Yeah, exact same numbers. So I feel like we're in the middle of an update. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, all of those. Every time they say 72% in, that's a guess. I mean, there's it's nothing scientific.
Huh.
I mean, it's an educated.
None
guess.
of this is fucking scientific, right? It's just they're literally just sitting there counting. That's
they're going by the precincts.
Well, they know what they do know is they know who voted in how many mail-in votes they had. They know how many early votes they had, but they don't know how many people voted on the day of the election.
Ah, I see.
And so,
okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
Right. So,
when you were talking earlier about not knowing why Trump was getting 70 million votes, you did touch on something that I think is accurate, which is a lot of those are just people that vote Republican because their idea of what Republicans are was cemented in like the 80s. They think Republicans equal good with money, and strong on foreign policy and law and order, even though none of those things are true. I do think, however, the reason you have a lot of Trump fanatics and the reason you've got millions and millions of votes going to this guy, more than, say, went to Bush, is because Trump, if you know nothing about policy and you're simply living in America, so in other words, you're the average Republican voter, Trump appears to be the answer to a lot of problems. Everybody's angry with it. He's not saying the normal things you hear politicians say. Well, if you've been living in America for the last 40 years, you have seen the quality of life for the average American go down, while rich people get richer, and these dynasties of politicians stay in office forever. Yeah. So you're seeing a new person come in who makes all the old people angry on both parties. You see the Republican Party, Lindsey Graham saying, "Oh, we'll lose and we'll deserve it," and yada yada yada. And for somebody that doesn't understand or pay attention to the specifics ever, that's just what America needs. America needs a massive change that will annoy all the old people or all the people who previously held these positions of power. And I think we, particularly progressives, have the unenviable task of needing to convince those people you were right on the broad strokes, but you were wrong about the person you chose to accomplish these things. You were right that the old powers are bad and they're not interested in helping you, and that most of what you hear is bullshit. You bought snake oil salesman.
Trump was legitimized. It's really frustrating for me to hear people talk about how like he's crazy now, and when Obama would say something, and okay, here's NPR every day on the way to fucking work, right? Barack Obama says this about policy. Donald Trump retorted, who's not a politician, who's not running at all. Donald Trump says he'd like to see a birth certificate. And I'm like, why are you putting, first of all, Donald Trump hasn't changed the rhetoric. That's all he says. It's birtherism. Why are you making that a part of your story? Whatever Obama said had nothing to do with Trump. Why are you reporting in tandem about Trump's ridiculous request to see a birth certificate? It's just insane. And that went on for a long time, like years. And I'm not saying like, Trump's base was listening to NPR, but that sort of thing is just normalizing somebody who's anything but.
I think that's true. I think the media did a horrible job, by which I mean a thorough job, of making Trump seem like his insanity seem acceptable, like it was just part of regular conversation.
Got to be more than that, though, right? Because they are just. That's why I say they don't believe him. It just suits their racist agenda.
Well, you mentioned Obama, and I want to point out Ashley Babbitt voted for Obama and then died for Trump's insurrection. That happened. I point out the same thing I said earlier. What was Obama's main pitch when he got elected? Change. He was also the first black president. So if you know nothing about politics, but you're suffering in America, it makes sense that you vote for the candidate that's saying change. And oh, look, we've never had a black president before. Let's try it out because I'm suffering. And I see the through line to Trump. You go through Obama's administration. What is he? Another neoliberal centrist, essentially. He does do the Affordable Care Act, and that's great, but he doesn't do anything. He bails out the big businesses and yada, yada, yada. So when you have Trump out there getting famous for ragging on Obama and all these other things, yeah, to us, that seems ludicrous. To us, it absolutely does. But I just say NPR knows who the average American voter is, I think, better than most. And they know, like, yeah, they don't follow any of this. They don't understand any of this. It's just interesting that Trump is making this accusation. And there's literally no more thought put into it than that.
Right. I mean, I guess on Sunday, Martha Raddatz on ABC asked, I believe it was the governor of New Hampshire, Sununu, she said, well, Trump said there wasn't going to be any more elections. I guess he said on Friday, right, to the Christian group. This is going to be the last election you're ever going to have to vote in, and that was it's a pretty big story, I mean, it's an insane comment, and it's scary to think about that he's actually saying this, because before it was all insinuation. Now he's just directly saying this. And so the Sununu says, oh yeah, that's just Trump being Trump. And then she goes on to, doesn't follow up, doesn't say like, well, that sounds like an authoritarian. Do you believe that? Do you think that should be the way it is? How can you say that? How can you say it's just Trump being Trump? This is about democracy and ending democracy. This is a serious topic. How can you just, not kind of poo-poo this away and act, and then she just goes on to the next question. Like, this is like, I'm not going to follow up on this.
Malpractice.
Right. I mean, it's just terrible journalism. And I think that Rick Perlstein writes about this frequently, the historian who Sam has on his show, and he's written all these books on the different Republican movements. Everything from Goldwater on. I think he's now to believe he's to Bush, but yeah, I mean it's crazy. And one other aspect that I really think about quite frequently is Bernie himself and how Republican voters view Bernie, because for a long time Bernie was the most popular Democrat. I mean, even though he is officially an independent, but it means for anybody who caucuses with the Democrat, he was the most popular Democrat across the country. So in other words, there were certain independents and Republicans who respected Bernie enough to give him a favorable rating, and it's because they knew that he was speaking to their economic values, but he wasn't necessarily speaking to their cultural values. Right. And so that's, they have to decide at that point, well, am I going to go with my white identity, or am I going to actually vote for somebody who's going to help me economically? And unfortunately, a lot of times they'll go with their cultural identity. And I guess that's kind of something that started, not completely started, I mean, because you can go back and it's, forever. But I mean, I think Gingrich, what he did in '94 was to push that cultural identity to where that was the major driving force.
Yeah. He came up with left and right. Party. That's when people officially started using that. The most frustrating thing about that Martha Raddatz interview from ABC last week, was their headline for that was that the governor was calling for a halt to personal attacks by Republicans. He was like, we got to stop doing this, guys. And they're just trying to make him look like this great guy. Whereas the whole interview should have been, like, the headline afterward, post interview, should have been, he's just making excuses for Trump calling for an end to democracy. He's just ignoring this blatant democratic statement from the presidential candidate, his candidate. Instead, they're like, no, the governor wants to be more civil, you guys. So come on, Republican. And it's just bullshit, because the Republicans, they probably just say, hey, man, go out there and say this so that we look good. ABC, we're going to work with ABC on this story. And then that came up and they were like, oh, that's not our story. The anti-democracy thing. Let's just move past that. It's crap. That's why I don't like the mainstream media. I don't care how network or cable, I don't care where it's coming from. It's all bull crap. I don't like it at all.
One, we need this fact to stay in the news that Trump said he's going to essentially do away with democracy. And two, the way that happens is we get candidates to keep talking about it. So encourage your candidate or your current elected representative to keep talking about it. So the news must cover it so people hear this.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's for sure. It's very important. And I mean, I think that's why leftist media is so important, because I agree with what you're saying. I mean, I do think that there are some small sliver of people who are on major networks that are decent, but yeah, I mean, I don't like, I don't even watch television. I haven't even turned on my television in months, and I've looked into just dropping my cable completely, because why, if I don't watch it, why am I spending? I think I called up and I said, it's like $60. Why am I spending $60 on something that I don't watch? I mean, and part of it was just because I've been on vacation a lot, and I fall behind on my leftist shows, and then
don't do that.
I know, but I mean, and then I can't, and I have to watch them. I mean, I feel like I should watch them, because that's what I really support. And then it's like, well, I don't have any time to watch any, any kind of network news or anything like that. And you see all the clips on Twitter anyway. I mean,
True.
you can get a feel for like what is in the news. So anyway, yeah,
Nothing.
when are new results coming in? I mean, man,
Check
it's
this
already,
out. Oh wait, that's not it.
I
Where
just
is
don't
it?
know if we're going to get a call. It's 12:16 Eastern
Yeah,
time.
we may not, or the call may come in
Wednesday
at
morning.
like 2 a.m.
Check this
And
out. Jason Hatfield says that I think the Letterhack meant red and blue. I don't think that's what Gingrich was saying. I think he made a point of saying I could probably find this somewhere, or any of us could find an article about this somewhere. But I think Gingrich was a guy who really drove home left and right and radical left. I think
Yeah.
that was his doing. And red and blue had been around for a while also. And I know left and right had been around. My thing about left and right, like when we say the left and the right, it just sounds like marching cadence. Left, right, left, right. And I hate falling in line. So that's another reason why I just personally don't like those
And
terms, although we use them.
historically speaking, red and blue got cemented with the 2000 presidential news coverage during the 2000 presidential election. Not, as far as I know, for any nefarious reason, just because it was
A map.
easier. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
easier to show on a map, and people were really paying attention to that one. Although, incidentally, America, like with many other things, got it wrong. The progressives around the world generally are associated with the color red, and the conservatives blue.
Yeah.
And in America, that's twisted around.
But I think we can all agree Gingrich did his part to weaponize
One of the worst
our-
human beings.
Yeah, our side.
yeah, definitely. I mean,
Frick.
he
Yeah.
really he was unbelievably bad. I mean, and he still is. I mean, you hear the comments he makes all the time, and he's just like unbelievable.
There's
He's
one
so
night-
evil. I'm convinced he truly does not believe in hell.
I was watching actually I was watching this documentary on Satanism, and this guy was giving a speech on the steps of, it was in Florida, on Rick Scott's inauguration day or something, and somebody goes, "You're going to hell," and he goes, "I hope so." But anyway, he was the head of the Satanic Party, so that would make sense. I digress. There is an old Chris Farley interview on Conan O'Brien. This is way back. I mean, obviously the guy isn't around anymore, but like, it was probably 1994.
Mhm.
And one of the first questions Conan had, it had to be like right around November, right? And Conan goes, "So, I don't know why he's asking this to Chris Farley." He goes, "So the Republicans are in charge again? They think they can turn this thing around. What do you think?" And Chris Farley goes, "Yeah, I mean, sounds like they have some pretty good ideas. I think we should all root for them." And I was like, "What the fuck am I watching? Why?" First of all, I don't care what Chris Farley thinks about politics unless he has like a real opinion about it. Why are you asking him? And I'm thinking like, that's just kind of how it was back then, unless you were like, the number of people who are really into politics and have their finger on the pulse and
Oh,
are
yeah.
switched on to how this works now is like just massive compared to back then, where people were like,
Yeah.
"Let's give the Republicans a shot." Okay, now it's the Democrats' turn. Now it's the Republicans' turn again. Whereas now it's like, this is a fight for democracy.
That was
No,
people.
stop fucking around.
Yeah, that was people trying to be reasonable with poor information. If
So
you
I
would have known who Reagan was, if you would have known what Iran Contra was all about, if you would have known, the things these people got up to and the goals they had, you would have had a very different opinion. But back then, you were supposed to be like, "Oh, well, everybody's just got their own way to try to make the country better." And only now do we know that was bullshit.
That Conan interview, people are saying they hadn't seen it. One reason I liked it is because Adam Sandler and David Spade were like just standing right off camera because it's all in the same building at 30 Rock. But those people still exist and they are the center.
Yeah.
So they are the
Yeah.
people who need to choose a side now because your numbers are very few.
And I refer to them as conservatives because they are
Right.
a more
Basically.
literal. I mean, they are conservative. They are acting as though things are the way we thought they were back in the day, even though we learned that that wasn't so.
They do more harm than
And we're
good.
certainly not in those times now. But yeah, they don't want to change. They are. I'm not saying conservative even as an insult here. They literally just don't want to do things differently. It's in their nature to be conservative. They've cut their teeth in a highly conservative environment. Yeah, they're going to be the opposition. You asked John, what do you see in 10 years? I say in 10 years, assuming the country survives, there are no Republicans. The conservatives are represented by the Democrats, and a coalition of centrist Democrat and Republicans becomes the new Democratic Party. Hopefully, we get them to call themselves something different.
Yeah, this actually goes to something that I was talking to Sam about, because if you look at most parliamentary systems, I mean, I don't think it actually has to be. This is one thing I disagree with him on, is that he's saying that the parliamentary system itself is the reason why we don't have like 7 parties in our Congress, and we could have those 7 parties. That's my point. Is that we choose not to have those 7 parties, and I agree with him because you're trying to be practical, and it's hard to do that. What I have said before is that if the Republicans splinter into 2 parties, and you're actually seeing that to a small degree. You're talking about Nikki Haley getting 17% of the vote. In other primaries, she was getting 20% of the vote, 25. I mean, that's not enough to splinter a party because nobody's going to win seats with 20% of the vote. But I mean, if let's say it is, to where it's like a 60-40 and it is a splintering, then I feel that the left there could possibly be a left party, and what you're talking about is having a kind of a center Democratic Party, and so that way there would be 4 parties that are politically viable, but people could actually feel good about this. I believe in this party. I believe in this, what their values are of this party, because right now, I mean, what they call a big tent party, the Democratic Party, so many politicians I just don't feel comfortable with. I mean, I'll vote for them. I'll vote for them, and I hope they do well, and I hope Harris does well, if she wins. But you can already look to things that I don't like, about her, and I'm not going to just like kid myself and say, I'm a supporter, but I support everything that she does. No, I don't. I mean, like talking about going into crypto, talking about like, I mean, I do. I think we have a slight disagreement about. I mean, I do feel she's an employee, and I don't think that'll ever change. I wish she. I just. I mean, I do think she could campaign as having a little bit more humanistic views, towards foreign policy. But I guess my point is that we can. I could see in 10 or 20 years to have this splintering going on, and like you're interviewing these Green Party candidates, and I guess that's already happening. Like when Sam interviewed what was the guy, something Owen, and I've read articles by him before, and he works for Mehdi Hassan's organization, and he was talking about how the Greens were people were leaving the Labor Party because it was just too conservative, and moving to the Green Party, and so, I mean, which is interesting because that doesn't really happen that much here in America. I mean, it's, and so
Is that Owen Jones you're talking about?
yeah, I think that's his name, right? Owen Jones, yeah. And
I think it's likely to happen when we don't have to worry about utter doom should we lose. Because right now we have to align with the Democrats, or we regress and we experience the horror of a Republican leadership. But if we have the Democrats basically as a guaranteed win, suddenly, as we're experiencing right now with this, the primary becomes the election. And that only takes 1 or 2 cycles before it just becomes official. And there's enough understanding on the general populace of who is the progressive, who is the whatever. Then we just fly different flags.
There it is. So we were talking about how to talk to people in politics, like candidates who say, I'm a progressive, and then you could quickly quiz them and determine what that actually means.
Yeah.
And if they are or not legitimately. But when you're talking to regular folks and they say, I'm a Democrat, you go, okay, fine. I mean, I know people who vote Democrat, and I know people who vote third party, and they're all progressives. Are you a progressive? They say, well, what does that mean? Then it's like, let me enlighten you, right? Let me have your ear for a moment here. And that, to me, one thing it comes down to is holding your elected officials accountable. There's another problem I have with the way voters operate. It's that my job is done as a voter and I move on. And I almost hate that we call ourselves voters. We should call ourselves management or something like that, because it's like you do the voting and now, fucker, you work for us.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's not like, it's a little weird to assume that we're hiring our boss.
Yeah.
I've never looked at it that way. I've always looked at it as, no, that we voted for them because they said they were going to do certain things, and as soon as they got elected, they said, "Oh, guess what? I'm sorry, we can't do those certain things." And it's like, "Oh, okay, well, I'm just a voter. I don't have anything to say after the election's over." This is a fundamental flaw in the system, I think, but that it is what it is. So, let's just really participate in the primaries. Really put your vote to use. Get the full maximum impact out of your voter label or status. And so, oh, you're a progressive voter, so obviously you participate in the primaries. Oh, you don't? Not very progressive.
You can vote in the general, and that gives you, let's say, 1 point of power. And if that's all you want to take, okay. But you also have the opportunity to vote in the primaries, to donate, and to volunteer. So
yeah,
that gives you 4 points right there. Or do an internet show. The point being, you have more. A lot of us have way more power than we choose to use, simply because we're not aware it's there. We're fighting one-handed because we haven't looked at our other hand.
Right. I am bugged that the only results that are not coming in are for the races we're watching. Like, that is fucking annoying to me right now. And
they called the Kerry Lake race.
And it's like it's like whoever had the most voter participation was called, and the ones with the least voter participation have not been called. What's up with that? Why is that a thing? Is that silly that I'm even bringing that up?
Well, the largest margin. I'm sorry. Go ahead, John.
Well, I think I'm surprised that the vote totals from the 3rd district. I mean, that's not good. 31,000 with I mean, there's so many people who actually voted in the 1st district. I mean, it doesn't matter because whoever, it's either either Ansari or Tehran they're going to be the representatives, but it's just not. It's just, those vote totals are low. I mean, to where you look at the first district, and what is it? I mean, it's like twice as much, or is that right?
It is
Yeah, it's twice as much. I mean,
yeah,
not quite twice as much, but
like
almost
59.4 thousand.
Right,
almost, yeah.
right. I mean, and so it's like, why is that? I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, why? It seems like in Phoenix, they would. I mean, I understand that there are a lot of. I mean, because this district is also part of Phoenix, also the first district, and then the suburbs can be affluent, and it's always whoever as a percentage, the highest voting totals are first people who earn the most money, second the people who have the highest level of education, and usually those two things correlate with each other, very strongly. And so, but I mean, it just kind of blows my mind that there's almost twice as many vote totals,
See,
from the first district from the third. It's just like, what? I mean,
this is what I'm talking about when I say that you have like 4 degrees of power you could use. It's not just about necessarily getting a progressive in that seat. Yeah, that'd be great. But something else is going to happen. Kamala Harris she's going to have her version of John from San Antonio telling her what's what with the election yesterday. She's going to get a something tomorrow morning saying what happened. And they're going to say these Democratic districts didn't participate all that much, whereas these Republican ones did. And Kamala Harris's campaign and the promises she makes are going to now skew farther to the right because she's trying to get elected. So when you are a progressive sitting at home wondering, when are we ever going to have a change? When am I ever going to feel inspired to go out and vote? Well, it's going to start by showing up. It's going to start by being seen to be actively participating. And every opportunity you get, go left. But if you don't have that opportunity, it's still important. Even if you don't think they're going to win, it has effects that are not directly measured that night. Other people are watching, other forces are listening, and you need to be shown to be exercising your power so it is counted.
Good point. I'm seeing that the race won't be called tonight.
where are you seeing that?
From I mean, this is supposedly people from within the room at the campaign headquarters. They said good energy. The race won't be called tonight, but it's too close to call right now.
They're talking about specific races. You're talking about the third district.
This is in Raquel Tehran's campaign HQ.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
tons of energy in the room. This race won't be decided tonight, but the love of Raquel is overwhelming. So proud of her and the people in this room who have changed Arizona. So, why not though? Because they don't have very many votes to count. This is what I don't. Am I wrong here? Am I being dumb? Why don't I understand this? If there aren't that many people voting, where are the results?
I just certain states are just bad at
very rural
at counting votes.
They far away.
Yeah, no, because if that was the case, then this third district is all in Phoenix or Glendale, which is the suburb. I mean, it's all just right there. So that's not it. They're just. I mean, I just don't think they're very good at counting votes. I mean, yeah. I mean,
I'd love to know if it's accurate that 84% of the votes are in. I mean, long coffee break. Somebody just went on like, let's go.
Yeah, we're probably not going to get a call until tomorrow. I mean, this is kind of why I was kind of skeptical of doing some of those West Coast,
Yeah.
things, except that call in the Portland area came so quickly,
Oh yeah,
because it was
that
such a
was
blowout. I mean, we didn't do that live. We did it the night afterwards. But I mean, yeah, that was like. But I was watching the results live, and and it was just like, yeah, it was bad, and so yeah, I don't know. I mean,
well,
I get. I
maybe.
mean,
I
go
mean,
ahead.
do we call it just for
Yeah,
ourselves? Do we call it
yeah,
like
I
call
think
it
we
a night,
should.
not call the race? I'd
Yeah,
love that if we could just.
I'll call
yeah.
a race.
I mean, because it's just it's getting it's getting late. I'm kind of fading myself, and but yeah, I wish we could have a call, because I mean, we're not going to know. We're not going to know until uh until I don't think they're going to be staying. I don't think they're going to be staying until 2 in the morning
Yeah.
counting votes either. I think they're going to go home and then start again in the morning.
I
You
think
know,
I think we had a lot of good commentary and analysis tonight. I think we learned a lot. Runoff polls, that was new to me. Very glad to hear that. I think that we had some good discussion about Harris and her VP picks and how that might be going on behind the scenes. When we meet back here next Tuesday night for Cori Bush's primary election live coverage, I think we'll know who the VP pick will be, and we'll have a lot more to talk about, because that's how this goes nowadays. A
yeah,
week is a lifetime of change. And I'm exaggerating a little. I mean, there's just so much that can happen tomorrow or the next day. We're going to have plenty more to talk about. I really am. Hold on. Thank God for Kowalski from Nebraska.
yeah, it was
Yeah, we got
awesome.
Kowalski from Nebraska and John from San Antonio. Congressional baseball fan is in the chat.
Yeah.
Hey,
Sam, if Sam is watching, hate watching, he's pissed.
don't let me know. Don't let me know if he's watching. I can't. I've been a little bit goofy and nervous and nerdy the whole time, just with John and the letter hack here. You add in Sam, I'll be too weird.
I can't wait to send the letter hack a cease and desist about John from San Antonio.
Oh, I'll never get over that laugh. That laugh.
Burn.
Oh.
Ooh, burn.
Well, sir, it was a hoot and a privilege.
Yeah,
I
this is a
enjoyed
good time.
getting in the
Yeah.
nitty gritty with y'all.
Thanks
Yeah,
very much
definitely.
for hanging out, you guys. I really
Yeah.
do appreciate you coming on the stream, and I appreciate everyone for watching. Jake, what do you got going on this week? Anything coming up that people should know about? Or are you playing it by ear?
Well, I'm largely playing it by ear. One thing that he might not be familiar with, but I think John will not enjoy, is the
Yeah, it's called a Jake sit. Jake likes to just disappear. That's how he leaves shows. Not his own, mind you. He will do a proper exit on his own, but on every other show, it's a Jake sit. So, John.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I wish we could get a call,
Yeah.
because I mean, it kind of defeats the purpose of.
I think
You
we had a
know,
lot of great conversation.
Yeah, we
I
had a lot of
thoroughly
great
enjoyed this.
conversation. Yeah, I did too.
I think it's
It was
beneficial to
fun.
viewers.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, covered a lot of material. That's for sure.
Well, in this way, we avoid bad news on air.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
Yes.
so, but yeah, definitely looking forward to the next 2 weeks, and I guess we'll kind of go from there. As far as is everything, and
Yeah.
calling into MR and see how that goes. I mean, it's a 24-minute call.
That was epic.
I was surprised.
And there was like debating going on. I was engaged. I was like, wow, this is great.
Yeah. Sam actually made some very good point. He's actually, he kind of made me question about about the whole idea of picking a VP from trying to deliver a state. But I mean, I'm still nervous about it because she really has to win,
Yeah.
these states,
Yeah.
and I just
They got to be thinking about that.
yeah, and I just well, they are. I mean, they
Yeah.
are, and that's the only reason why Shapiro is going to be the lead pick, and it's going to be, I'm not saying for sure he's going to get it, but I mean,
Makes sense.
it sure looks like he will, and he's going to piss a lot of leftists off, and we'll have to see how that reaction and
I hope
is going to happen.
people were saying early on, like, oh, new governors never leave their position to run for
No, that's
VP, and I was like, okay. I mean, I don't know. It's how opportunistic are
you gotta,
they?
you gotta take that chance. I mean, you're a heartbeat away from the presidency. Most people who go into politics, they want to be in the highest office possible. If they have real good intentions, they want to create change. And if they don't have good intentions, they want their ego to,
They could be one of the people who saved democracy.
Right. So yeah, I mean, it's so yeah, looking forward to the next 2 weeks, and just kind of go from there. And so,
well, thanks for coming on. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you tomorrow night right here at 10 p.m. Eastern for Left Past 10 with Conan Neutron of Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends, Movie Night Extravaganza, and Protonic Reversal. Guy's been doing podcasts for a long time. He's a rock and roll lifer. He tours around with his band. It's going to be a fantastic discussion about politics and pop culture and all kinds of stuff. So not just politics. But hold on, I just want to double check one last time if there's any new results, because NBC's like, 88%, but the numbers don't change. Very frustrating. I don't get it. Anyway, thanks for being here, John. Thanks everybody for watching. We will see you next time.
The Letterhack. Oh my gosh. We don't miss, folks. He does not miss whatsoever. The Letterhack. Oh my gosh. We don't miss, folks. He does not miss whatsoever.
Just don't twist the knife too much.